This
There we go.
conference will now be recorded.
Okay, and with that, I will turn it over to Kathy, currently the Vice President, and we'll go from there.
All right, so we're going to call this meeting to order now, and those who can, I'll invite you to stand with me for a moment of silence in memory of Phil Ronka. So. Thank you. Now, if you'll remain standing, I have a flag here. If you can, hopefully you could see it sooner rather than later, because my my video is being very kitschy and slow, but I'm waiting for it to show up on my screen when it's not there.
I do not see it, Kathy. You appear to be frozen.
Yeah, I don't either. It's hard to say a pledge to the flag when you can't see it. Yeah, my audio is really.
Pat Webster's
oh, there
got
we
one
go.
up.
Thank you,
Yep.
Pat.
Pat's got one up.
So, you'll
Okay.
join me, please. I pledge allegiance to the
flag
of the United States of
America, and to the republic,
and to the republic stands
one nation,
one nation under God,
indivisible,
indivisible,
with liberty and justice for
with
all.
liberty and justice for all. Thank you very much. Okay, executive session. We will be having an executive session. I'm not sure if there will be a vote following the session, but we will be having one. Okay, roll call. Tamara, please.
Brett Yeagley.
Present.
Pat Webster.
Hold on, she's got to unmute.
Here,
Okay.
she's here.
Mallory Perlin.
Here.
Scott Martin.
Here.
Stu Strauss.
Here.
Dave Honorado.
Here.
Paul Schmoll.
Here.
John Klink.
Here.
Mayor Wismer is absent, and Kathy Johnson
Here I am.
is
I am
present.
Here.
Okay.
Okay. All right, so we need to appoint a new member to council, and then we'll need to reorg ourselves. We did receive one resume in the time frame that was requested, and that was from Dave Davis, and Dave is here with us. Would anyone like to, I know all council members have received his cover letter and his resume. Would anyone like to ask Dave some questions, or what is your pleasure?
I don't have any questions right now, but if Dave would like to kick off by saying something, it might lead to a follow-up, unless anybody else has another idea.
No, I'd invite you, Dave, to unmute yourself and please say a few words if you like.
Should be unmuted now. Thank you for everyone for allowing me to join and announce my intent to serve Borough Council. Many of you know me already. As you know, I have a strong belief in fiscal conservatism and smart community planning. I support the traditions and the setup of TRAP as a community, and I'm fully behind the decisions of Borough Council in the past and today, and I'm looking forward to contributing if given that opportunity. I wish it could be under different circumstances. I was really sorry to hear about Phil. Anyone that is appointed to that position can only succeed him, never replace him. But anyone that does will including me, will be certain to carry out his values and his mission to TRAP, and keep that dedication alive. So that's my basic pronouncement and commitment to the community of TRAP and the Borough Council at large. And I'm really looking forward to participating in the municipal government, in the decision-making process, policy-making, community planning, operations, finance, things of that nature. I'm eager to contribute, and I appreciate everyone's consideration of my candidacy and interest.
Thank you, Dave. Does anyone on council have a question for Dave?
This is my raising my
What's that,
hand.
Pat? You have
That's my
Hi.
pro-
okay.
Hi, Dave. So when you started and you said that you're committed to your fiscal conservative,
Mm-hmm.
and you're committed to that, I just want to draw you out a little more. Are you so committed that you will always vote no when it leads to progress for TRAP? And because sometimes that you just recently bought a new house, so sometimes it takes money to move forward.
Certainly.
So, are
Yeah.
you opposed to that, or, will you be open, or will you feel it's compromising your conservative position if you're in a position where you have to vote on something that would result in increased costs for the residents?
I think we need to weigh the long-term benefits of implementing such a tax increase, and if the long-term benefits are in agreement on council that they are worth the cost of that tax increase, and yeah, I think we should consider that. That being said, I think there should be a rigorous process involved into evaluating those long-term costs or those long-term benefits versus the tax increase. There should be forecasting mathematical analysis, if you will, before that decision is made. But I wouldn't say I'm fiscally conservative to the point where I'm hesitant to implement change. It just needs to be thoughtfully considered and evaluated.
Good, because we have some tough decisions coming up, and some people were very proud of. We were all proud of the fact that we were the third lowest tax millage rate out of the 60-some municipalities in Montgomery County, and I think we had been for 10 years.
Mm-hmm.
But, at some point, we're going to need to, we can't hold that up as a badge of honor. TRAP is so much more than just that statistic. But, nobody likes paying more in taxes, but there's a point where, as you said, we need to take it under advisement. So thank you. That's all. Nobody else? If you don't, I have another
Let me
question.
get unmuted. Okay, does anyone else have a question for Dave?
So Dave, where in
Okay,
particular?
then-
No. Dave,
Go ahead,
Yes.
where
Pat.
in particular do your interests lie in council? Do you have any
well-
feel for that? And maybe it's premature to ask you that, but I don't know if you're coming in with an idea of where you might like to serve based on your skills.
Yeah, I actually spoke to Kathy about this already, but I have experience in financial services, accounting, budgeting, forecasting, money going in and money going out, like essentially. I know a lot about taxes. Most of my experience is in financial services, but I have project management experience. I have definitely a basic understanding of the local codes. I serve on the planning commission right now. Just getting my feet wet with that and getting more knowledge and experience.
Do you use QuickBooks?
Say again?
Do you use QuickBooks?
I use Excel typically for accounting, but I'm familiar with QuickBooks and something that I can definitely use. I mean, I do accounting.
All right. There was a reason for that question, but we won't get into that now.
Okay,
Thank you.
you're welcome.
Hey, Kathy,
Frozen.
So,
Kathy,
Yes, Stu.
Yeah, I'd like to make a motion to appoint Dave Davis to serve on council in the remainder of Phil Ronca's term. I still think he'll be up for re-election in 2 years, so.
I'll second that.
Well, the term will be through the next municipal election.
Yes.
It won't be his unexpired term, it'll be through the next municipal election.
Right.
So I think that's next year, right? So
That's
the
correct.
term
That's correct.
would be through the end of 2021.
I made that motion.
I second it.
Okay, and we have a second with Pat. Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by raising your hand and or saying aye.
Aye.
Sorry,
Aye.
Tamara, and my video is way slow, so,
We have
Aye.
all yays.
okay. So
Welcome aboard,
unanimous.
Dave.
Thank you.
Welcome aboard.
Looking
Now,
forward to serving with everyone. Thank you.
Dave, you are in your home right now?
Yes.
Okay. Dave Honorado, can you explain the pickle we're in and what it means for Dave?
Well, Dave
Please.
has been, Dave has been appointed, but until he is sworn in and signs the oath of the office, he's not fulfilled all the qualifications to vote on any item on behalf of the borough as a borough councilman. So my recommendation is that Dave can participate tonight but not vote. And then tomorrow or the next day, he can go to Borough Hall, hook up with Tamara. She can swear him in. She's a notary, and he can sign the oath of office. And then at that point, he's fully qualified as a borough council member.
Okay.
Okay, so yeah, that was sort of an uncomfortable place to be. All right,
So- So
Yes.
just make sure you get a picture of it. I can't be there, but if Ellen can take a picture of the swearing in, that would be great. Right?
okay, is
Kathy?
that something you could do tomorrow, Dave?
Certainly. I look
Okay.
forward to it. Yep.
Great,
Thank
thank
you.
you.
Thanks, Dave.
It's a lot.
Kathy?
Yep.
All right,
Kathy, this
So
is Dave
now-
Honorado. I need to excuse myself for a few minutes. I just got a text from my partner to call him. There's an emergency, so just, I
okay,
will.
understood. Thank you. All right, the next thing is another piece of borough business. We need to do a reorganization since we currently are without a president. Do we have a motion? Any motions or nominations?
I'll make a motion to nominate Kathy Johnson as council president.
Okay, any other nominations? Okay, is there a second to that nomination? I don't think actually we need a second to a nomination, but you stated it as a motion. So,
Oh,
Well, but then you have to close there has to be a motion to close the nominations and then a second to
okay.
close it.
that's true.
I'll
Okay,
motion
so
to
is
close the nominations.
okay, is there a second to that?
I'll second that.
Okay, we have a motion, a second to close nominations. All right, all those in favor of me as president signify by saying aye.
aye.
Or
Aye.
whatever.
We're unanimous on that.
Okay, thank you, Scott. Thank you. All right, then I would like to open the nominations for vice president.
I'd like to nominate Scott Martin as vice president.
Is there a
second.
second? Okay.
I'll second that.
Okay, you have a second for it? Yeah. This gets a little weird here. If there is, are there any other nominations?
I'll move
Then
to
I
close
would-
nominations.
Thank you,
Second.
Stu. Any second? All right, all those in favor of Scott Martin as vice president signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
We are good there.
Okay, so we're unanimous there. Very good, thank you. We will need a president pro tem. And So are there nominations for President Pro Tem, which is the spot that Scott is leaving, is vacating?
I nominate Stu Strauss as President Pro Tem.
I'll second.
Okay, are there any other nominations? Then a motion to close nominations.
I'll make a motion to close nominations.
Second.
Okay, is there a second? All right. All those in favor of Stu Strauss as President Pro Tem signify by saying aye or raising your hand.
Aye. And that is unanimous.
All right.
Kathy, we really can't see your vote. You're
I
freezing
know,
from time to time.
my video is very slow and I don't know why. It freezes all the time. So that's why I'm saying aye rather assertively. I hope that communicates to everyone. Scott and then Stu. Okay. In terms of committee appointments, I would like to hold off on changes to the committees at this time. But there were a few things that Phil was on that we really do need some, we've got enough check signers, so I don't see there's any reason to do any of that right now. Perhaps that can wait till next month.
I agree.
Okay. We do have another opening coming up on council, and I would like to suggest that we publish the fact that we are looking for resumes again. I would like to suggest a due date of June 15, with the idea that we would try to assign someone at the July meeting, if that's okay with everyone.
Yep. Yep,
Just
that
keeping
seems-
it transparent and clear. I believe you all have already received at least one person who's self-nominating, so we'll make sure Dave gets another copy of that.
What does
of the-
self-nominating mean? What do you mean?
I'm sorry?
Another
mean?
application.
An applicant.
Well, isn't everybody self-nominating?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. But we did receive another resume from someone. So, and we'll consider that at the July meeting. All right. As long as
Is there
they
any,
stay.
so to appoint somebody then, because once Dave does his swearing in, I had given this meeting as my end, but I was, so am I carrying on, for the next month or so, or how do we handle my status relative to?
Well, let me just say that the choice is yours, Brett. As long as you remain a resident of Trapp, you can remain on Borough Council. But knowing that you will be moving at some point, from what I understand, so my recommendation would be for you to stay on until that meeting in July, at which time the council will accept your resignation and then appoint your successor.
Okay.
No
So
gap.
that's after the meeting, Dave, or how does that work?
No, it's before the meeting. Brett will resign effective, whatever the date of that meeting is. And then you can all then appoint his successor at that meeting. Okay?
Would Brett vote or would Brett
No.
not vote July
No.
meeting?
Because I would
No.
be out at that point.
No, Brett would be out. He would not vote.
Could he
And
send a letter confirming that the June meeting was his last and asking that we accept his?
well, I would prefer not to be wrapped around the date of a meeting. I would prefer that it would be on a certain date. So, for
Right,
instance, you may need to have a need for a special meeting that we don't know about this minute, but may come up in the next week or two. So I'd rather he send a letter that says he's resigning effective and make it the date of the next meeting. What is that date? So July?
Well,
I was
I
just
think,
looking for that.
I think you already had that for this meeting though, right?
Well, no, not exactly. Your letter said you intended this, like, I think your letter said you would likely this meeting would be your last meeting.
Kind of
But I
general.
did leave it open to, okay.
You did leave it open,
It
so
was
I,
pretty open-ended there.
yeah, I'd rather you send us a letter clear cut that you're resigning effective the July meeting date, whatever date that
July
is.
7th, I believe that is, guys.
Okay, thank you. Effective July 7th is you're resigning effective then, and then council can appoint your successor on that, at that meeting.
Hey,
Okay?
Brett, Dave, I
Yeah.
got a question. If he decides to, and something happens with closing, if his last date is going to be as a resident of August 1st, for example, I'm just throwing out dates. I have no idea what's going on. Really, technically, he could still vote through July and the appointment would be vacant at the August meeting. Is that correct or incorrect?
If you did it that way.
I think we need some clear dates. I don't feel comfortable, especially with some of the recent turmoil and change. I think I'd love to have Brett stay on.
As long as
But-
possible. Thank you.
But I just think having it go undefined makes me uncomfortable, and I think it's probably unnecessary. This term is such a short term anyway, before everybody has to run in the next. If we can get a qualified candidate, that's good. But I would feel like I'm manipulating a little bit if we hold it off another month, but that's just my opinion.
Bottom line, is up to Brett. If he wants to serve through July and into August, great. So appreciate it. I'm thinking he might appreciate having a month off before closing and moving, but it's absolutely up to you, Brett.
Can I ask Dave, I guess it'd be a logistics question, and just as a supposing, because I don't know if we're still going to be in this virtual world in July. Dave, would it be possible if he resigned effective at the end, like on July 8th at, I don't know, 11 o'clock or July 7th, whatever, at 10:30, at the end of the borough council meeting, and then you appoint that person at the end, and hear me out why, then if it is virtual, they could come in the next day, I can give them the oath and all that, and then they could have the paperwork and everything for the next meeting so that they kind of know what's going on, and they could actually participate in the meeting, their first meeting in
Well,
August.
Yeah, you could do that. It's up to Brett if he wants to come
Right,
to another
that's-
meeting.
Oh,
But
come on, Brett.
If he does, I mean, how could you not want to? But if he does, I would ask him to send a letter that says it's his intention to resign at the end of the July 7th meeting. You would have that on the agenda at the end of the meeting, accepting his resignation, followed by the appointment of his successor, if you are ready to do that. Okay?
Yep.
Okay.
We could do that too. That sounds great.
So whatever you want to do.
What do you want to do,
So
Mr.
we
Yagley?
have a deadline for resumes or letters of interest.
Well, we'll do that. I'll work on that letter for the terminate after the next meeting. The July
Okay.
meeting.
So I think June 15, 21st, somewhere. Give us a week or two before the meeting to review any possible
How about-
candidate.
Does June 19th work? And then
Sure.
you'd have 2 weeks before the meeting. And that gives people about
Mm.
2 weeks to put it in, week and a half to get it in.
So
Sounds
specifically, are we saying Friday, June 19th at noon or at close of business?
Whatever you'd prefer,
Are you
it does not
manager,
matter.
How much processing? Are you okay then coming in Monday and processing them, or do you want a heads up at noon so you have a couple of hours?
Yeah, that's fine. I mean, we can do it at the end of business day. I mean, if it's
Okay.
via email, I can easily pull that together and forward it to council.
I just want to make sure we're on the same page. So end of business is fine.
Yep.
All right. So, yeah, we'll deal with the other the other business of committee appointments and check signers at the next when we have our next new person, right? Okay,
Makes sense.
moving on. You have in front of you the minutes of the May 5th virtual meeting. What is your pleasure with regard to the minutes?
I'll make a motion to approve them.
I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to approve the minutes as presented. Any discussion or modifications to suggest? Okay, hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
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 Raise your hand, aye.
That is unanimous, I think. Yes, unanimous.
I'm there. Oh, ooh, you can see me. Okay. Public forum. If anyone would like to make a comment, please, now's your time. Limit your comments to about 2 minutes or so.
Hey guys, I guess I'll chime in if nobody else is jumping.
Sounds good.
So just a quick update regarding Representative Cerisi's office. We are slowly shifting to take constituents again by appointment only, sort of. We're looking to start scheduling things next week. You know, good old yellow phase and all that nonsense. The other thing I would say is that we are still available for writing letters of support. Everybody's still mostly either working in the office or working from home, and we're here if you need us. That's it.
Thank you.
Sarah?
Steph, could I ask
Sarah?
a question?
Go ahead, Phil. Scott.
Yeah, one of the things that, and we'll probably talk about this a little bit later in the meeting, but Tamara pointed out is that our grant, our Green Light Go grant was pulled back because we hadn't broken ground on that project. And that's basically the redo of the intersection at Main Street and 113. What do you know, or can Representative Cerisi tell us about state funding, grants, et cetera?
Yep.
Is there any outlook or insight into that at this point?
Well, it's budget season, so it's hard to tell. There are grants that are still coming out, and with that in mind, I can take a second eye at them as they come from our leadership office to see if anything looks like what you guys are looking for. I can obviously send it along to Tamara. I think she already gets a semi-frequent email from one of our staffers, maybe, as long as he said he's doing that. I don't know. But if not, I can make sure that you guys are getting those. There hasn't been any real talk regarding future grants. I assume that there's going to be some shift in the financial landscapes, just based on everything we know. Yeah. But we don't have anything hard and fast. I mean, as we know, I'll let you guys know, but it's kind of where we are.
Okay, thank you.
Scott and Sarah, if you could just do a little more background on that, a reminder, bring me up to speed, and even for Dave and some of the other people that are on the call. So the Green Light Go program is stopped. You said pulled, but I
I'll let Tamara,
clarify.
Tamara's going to talk about that.
Yeah. Oh, in the manager's report or now?
whenever she wants to.
I can, it was
Okay.
on my report, but I can do it now. So the Green Light Go was the grant that had been applied for improvements at, 3rd Avenue and also at Trapp Shopping Center. We got notice last week that any projects that were not in construction, they were going to pull the funding back on, that we were to complete the design and submit for reimbursement, and they were going to consider it closed. There is another grant, the ARLI grant, which is the Automated Red Light Enforcement Grant, which is due at the end of this month, that I was going to ask for permission to submit for. But yes, from my understanding is all Green Light Go programs or projects that were not in construction were pulled, and they are not currently looking at the next round of applications for those either. I don't know about moving forward.
So where do we stand with our engineering design? Is that 100% completed?
It's about 95. It's about 95% complete. They are going to finalize that, and when we're done, we should have a highway occupancy permit and a final design that's like a shovel-ready project. We just don't have funding for it, and I don't know that the borough's in a position to, put out
Right.
the full $380,000 or $400,000 for it. So, like I said, there is another grant opportunity. And I have talked with Barry Isett about that, and we believe we can get all that grant paperwork in by the end of the month. However, there's a few additional things that they need, which I was going to talk about under my report, unless you want me to do it now.
Tamara?
One
Yes.
question on the Green Light Go. What are the dollars that we're talking about for the engineering design that we, possibly could get reimbursed? What kind of dollars are we out there?
So, the grant was at 20/80 match, so we had to pay 20%. They paid 80%. What I don't know is when we did the line item budget, like you put down your expenses and then what you're asking for and what you're paying for.
Right.
When we showed the match portion, our match portion happened to be engineering. So I'm assuming that they will still give us some reimbursement for that, but I don't know that for 100%.
We're looking at the completion of the project in total. But Paul, do you know what the engineering cost was for that? Just a rough?
That was done through McMahon.
What?
The total engineering proposal, and that was start to finish. So it was designed to end of construction, was about $79,000. So I believe I can pull it up and get it for you, but I think the design portion was probably about 40 to 50. I don't know the exact number of that 79.
That satisfies me for now. And I do remember that part of the grant was it couldn't be our borough engineer. So, yeah, thank you.
Kathy Stu has a
Hey.
question.
Yeah. Tamara, how much are we out on this now? Approximately.
Probably about 40,000. Yeah.
unbelievable.
So that's why I'm hoping, like I said, that they will reimburse the engineering portion, but because, since the project, since they aren't going to cover the project, I feel like they should give us a part of the, still split the 20/80 on the engineering, but I don't know that that's how they'll look at it.
Well, we wouldn't have gone into it if we hadn't gotten the grant.
Right. Exactly. So, you're right. I would agree. It's not like we would have done the engineering. So this year, so far, we've spent about 15 to 20,000 on that project, and then I'm not sure what it was last year. I'll have to look in the system.
Okay.
Sure.
Hey, Sarah, are you still on the phone? Sarah,
Yeah, I'm still here. What's up, Stu?
so do you hear what's transpiring? And maybe you can take this back to Joe, because, the borough could be out $40,000 in which we should never have been in a situation, and we should never have started it if we knew this possibly could happen.
No, I don't disagree with you. I will definitely take it back to him and see what we can. I don't know what we can do, but I'll definitely bring it to his attention and see if there's anything that can be nudged in the right direction.
And our agreement to pay 20% was 20% of a completed project, which,
Right.
We moved forward. The green light went go once we were awarded the grant.
Look, I'm I'm fully befuddled. Yeah.
Sarah, I'm feeding you the lines.
Yeah, I got you.
Okay, anyone else? I guess, yeah. I'm looking at this. You're the only other,
Bob Greenwood.
Bob Greenwood, non-public person, so.
Just a
non-
question,
non-council.
Tamara, what's the status on the road repairs on Borough Line Road between us and Upper Providence?
I mean, my understanding is they awarded it at their May meeting, and last I had talked to Tom Broadbelt, he had said they were hoping to start, mid to late June, and that I asked if we could do Northborough Line last because of our situation with the curbs. We were hoping to push that to July, but I haven't heard an updated start date. I can see if I can find something out.
And my concern is Borough Line Road between Route 113 and 7th Avenue. So Borough Line Road from 113 to 5th Avenue and 5th Avenue to 7th Avenue, there's potholes on both sides of the road that have never been fixed for months. And
That's not okay. That's not the road we're doing Northborough Line.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, you're talking about potholes. I had asked. All right, so there's two things. There's some small ones that I'd asked Joe if Public Works could do, and I can follow up with him. The other situation is, and there's another section down towards 3rd Avenue that needs dug out really and redone. Just a small, like a square section, maybe like 15 by 15. And I was going to talk with Innovative when they come out to do ours to see if they could do that and what that cost would be, because that is larger than Joe thinks that he can handle at Public Works. But we won't be doing our road work until probably August at this point because of the COVID stuff pushed back our concrete work. So everything's pushed back a little bit.
I've had concerns about them for months. I've emailed you, and not pointing any fingers, but my opinion, they need to be fixed because people are driving on the wrong side of the road to go around them. So it's an accident waiting to happen.
Well, and in fairness, if people are driving on the wrong side of the road, they shouldn't be. I mean, I drive that road. Yes, there are potholes. I don't know that they're that bad that you need to drive to the other side of the road. But if people are doing 55 when they should be doing 25 or 30, which is probably the problem, I can ask him to put stuff in, but it's not going to solve the issue because it's a large patch that there's an issue with the underlying repair. So I can ask him to put something down, but it's going to pop back out.
Yeah, the only comment I'm going to add to that is that particular section of road, I thought we had resurfaced not too long ago.
It was like 2015.
Right. And there is a problem underneath there with water that under that particular section of road. And that has been, I've lived here 20 years or whatever, and that has always been a bad section until we do something much more in depth to deal with the underlying surface conditions on that. I don't know we're going to be redoing it again and again. I mean, I'm not suggesting that we don't do the interim repair, but the engineer or somebody needs to look at that as some sort of long-term deep repair because it keeps opening up in that, I believe, that same spot.
So that leads to a question of, that's a road that we share. Obviously, we share the road with Upper Providence. Technically, that is on the Upper Providence side, but under the agreement, we do maintenance and repair other than like if you're doing. So, I mean, I don't know whose engineer should be looking at that. Do you know, like, I mean, I don't know if I should. I can call them and tell them their engineer needs to look at it, but if we're responsible for basic maintenance, potholes and those kinds of things, is that us? So, I mean, I can talk to Dave about that if you want, or we can talk about it here. I
believe if you look at the agreement, does it say they will say whether it goes straight down the middle of the road, but generally it's from, point A to point B is going to be Trap, and point B to point C is Upper Providence. So we need to look at that agreement.
Well, right. they take care of one of the roads and we take care of that one.
Right.
But the issue is if there's a water issue that needs to be repaired, I don't know that it's our, like, I don't know that it's our water issue. Do you know what I mean? Like, it might be their water issue.
Let's pull the agreement so we aren't speculating.
Yeah.
Right.
And
All
then,
right.
Okay.
then we can see
So
where
let's
we're
look
going.
into that.
Okay.
Hey guys, can I jump back in here for 1 second?
Sure.
It has nothing to do with Borough Line Road, I promise. So I just talked to Joe actually, and he said that if you guys could write a letter to us, we can see what we can do for you about that engineering cost. No promises, obviously, but a letter would be helpful.
Okay.
Thank you.
Hey,
Hey, the joy
Mayor?
of video conferencing, I guess.
Yes.
Tamara, got a question. Is this water, or the water issue that Scott's talking about, is that the same water issue that was down towards 113 that I thought we corrected on Borough Line Road?
It is down near 113. I don't know if you've, I mean, that's before me, so I don't know what you did down there, but it's not all the way down at 113. It's like at the top of it. Like if you come up from 113, it's kind of right at the crest of the hill, right past that. But I don't know if there's an underground, like I don't know, it could be an underground spring or something, or it could be stormwater.
I think that is the same spot, Stu.
Isn't
Yeah,
that
that's
where
what I
a
was
creek,
wondering, too.
doesn't the creek run underground at, across or underneath 113? I'm thinking.
Well, it does, but that would be, I think that's down, I don't
Down
think it goes
further.
under Borough Line.
Yeah, well,
Okay.
let's just pull
Well,
the
you know
agreement and
what?
look at it.
Sounds like the first step is pull the intermunicipal agreement and see who's got first dibs on it. And then if it's our engineer, we'll get Barry Isaac looking at it. And if the agreement says we need to get Upper Providence, we'll talk with them. Either way, we'll have to do something to do whatever fix we can do in the interim. So it looks like we've got a couple of things going on here. But the first is interim fix and then and then the agreement. Anything else for immediate steps? And then we'll have a better conversation about this. Okay. If there's nothing else from the public, Borough Engineer, Paul, please. You're on.
So just a couple things for the roadway improvement for the on West First Avenue. As I noted last month, the company that was going to do the slip lining went out of business, so we're still trying to contact other companies to get quotes. We did get a hold of the second lowest bidder, but their price, as I said before, was almost double of what the one we were under contract with. So we asked if they could, look at their numbers, see if they could sharpen the pencils at all, and they said no. So we have a couple more that we're asking quotes for. So hopefully next month we'll be able to present what those are. And I just want to make note that if this doesn't get done this year, I don't see it being a detriment that the roadway will collapse or anything like that. But it was noted that the pipe is damaged and needs to be repaired, but it wasn't anything that needed to be immediately repaired. So we have time to find another person to do the job.
Okay.
Paul, do we have a bond claim on this or no?
I'd have to go back and look at the contract to see what's involved. Tamara, you're muted.
Sorry, I don't think so, because this was just 3 quotes. It was like their bid was like $10,000, so it was
Okay.
under the
Yeah,
under the amount.
threshold. Yep. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. Thanks.
For the West First Avenue, as Tamara mentioned earlier, Innovative Construction is looking to start working at the beginning of August. Jody Drumheller, they're pushed back. They originally were going to do it next week, but they pushed it back another week to do the concrete work because they're backed up on some other project. And since we're not looking to do till August, we didn't see that be an issue. We're looking to do for the MS4, for the Rittenhouse, the Jefferson BMP design. We're looking to go to a pre-bid meeting on June 30th, and then opening bids on July 16th. And that's pretty much my report.
Okay.
If anyone has questions. Yes, Pat.
Paul, I want to bring up something that I've brought up in the past. Colonel's Place, the rain garden in the cul-de-sac.
That's going to be next on there.
Pardon me?
I think I was going to bring that up next as far as the.
Okay, let me just finish to remind the people, the folks who might not have driven down there lately. We made the center of the cul-de-sac the rain garden. Not we, I'm sorry, the developer put in the rain garden there. And I had concerns initially, there were some problems with grading, which I think were corrected. It was flooding out, but it's a weed garden and the trees in there are atrocious. And I remember at one point, Paul, you commented, it makes sense that it takes a year or two for these gardens to evolve into something beautiful. But for those of you who haven't driven down there lately, it's atrocious. And I don't know whether the developer planted what was approved for the rain garden to be a rain garden or not. But so that's my concern, because I did drive through there probably a month ago, and it just was so sad. So anyway, you have an update?
Yeah, we did our final walkthrough for the bond period, and in that rain garden, there was 4 trees that were dead. I'm not sure that the developer was maintaining it. And I know there was some back and forth as far as whether it was developer or the homeowners, so who was doing it all and all that. So regardless of that, yes, it does not appear that the rain garden was being maintained, and there is 4 trees that are dead that need to be replanted in that rain garden. It is overgrown with invasive species like the cattails and all that in there as well. And like you mentioned before, typically it takes about a year or 2 for it to establish, and within that year or 2, you need to be aggressively weeding and taking out the invasive species, or they'll take it over.
So two clarifications that I need. The bond period. So did we already give back the money? I mean, does the borough have any leverage on behalf of the homeowners regarding the rain garden?
I believe we gave back the escrow that was left in there. Is that correct, Tamara? I don't think there's anything left in the escrow that we had.
Well, there's no escrow, but there was a maintenance bond. And that's what triggered us to have you go out and take a look at the improvements because the maintenance bond was expiring. So I'll have to defer to Dave as to what leverage that gives us. But
and Dave, and my final question, Dave, just so you have my total picture and can answer both of them if you like. My other concern is, so if 4 trees were dead, is there, I think the original rain garden plan probably identified what type of trees are indigenous to rain gardens, and were those species in fact planted? So that's the other thing.
Well, Pat, I don't know that, but I will tell you that I'm assuming that what was planted there was pursuant to the plan.
Yes.
Because we approved it and we inspected it. So let's assume that's the case for now. Under the maintenance bond, they're required to replace any dead trees at this 18-month period, or any other dead plants that are in that facility. So in order for us to release the bond, they need to essentially make those repairs, replace the plantings that are dead. So it's further complicated, and it's something really, there's some other legal issues that we should discuss in executive session because it affects other rights here. It's further complicated to some degree because of the homeowners association. I'll be glad to discuss it with council in executive.
That,
We haven't released the bond, correct?
No, we're not, we are at the end, but we haven't released it. Right. Paul did his inspection because we're at the 18th month period.
Stu's got something.
And what's the amount that will be released that we're talking about? Approximately. Oh, can't hear you.
You're on mute, Tamara.
Sorry, I believe the bond is 10% of the total improvements of the whole project. Like, because the maintenance bond covers all the public improvements, so it's a percentage of that. I don't remember if it's 10 or 15%.
Are we
So
talking like,
What happens is we should have sufficient funds because of that 10%
okay,
to make the repairs if they refuse to, or essentially call their bond on that amount, and the borough can make the repairs. So that goes with any sort of public improvement that we're holding a bond for.
thank you.
yeah, Paul.
Stu?
Yeah.
Paul?
Yeah, go
Paul,
ahead, Stu.
looking at, well, I wish I was involved when I looked at that rain garden that you're talking about is the middle cul-de-sac and stuff like that. The ugly looking thing at Colonel's place, I assume.
Correct.
Why the heck would they put 8 pin oaks in that little spot?
Right,
Pin oaks grow about, number one, the root structure goes big, so it's probably going to go underneath the macadam at one time. I would say that the average height of a pin oak probably is supposed to be 60 foot down the road, could be more, by a width of 20 to 25 foot. And you're saying there's 8 planted in there? That's extraordinary that we would that was approved, or that's what they have in rainforest, maybe, or rain gardens. In big rain gardens, I could see it, but that's just something that's going to accidentally down the road.
a pin oak would have deep roots that go down, and anything that's sitting in rainwater is not going to have those deep roots. So I guess that's my point, Stu. I'm glad you brought up the specifics. So where Paul's concerned, I don't have, are you giving me assurance that what was on the plan was in fact consistent with MS4 rain gardens, and that is in fact what's there? We're pin oaks, or maybe Stu's mistaken. Maybe they're not pin oaks that are in there. But maybe
No,
they-
I'm reading the sheet right here.
Okay.
Yeah,
This
no, it was.
4 out of 8 pin oaks are dead. It's right on his report.
And so I guess the next question is that in fact what was on the original plan that Gorski submitted for the rain garden? And I mean, obviously, we're not voted in to be agricultural experts. We do the best we can.
I know that we had some back and forth as far as that layout on the cul-de-sac and the rain garden. I'll go back through my records to verify that there was what the pin oaks were. And I'll also go talk internally with Christine, who's our landscape architect, who's far more educated on the landscape part of it to verify. So when they do have to replace it, that we'll make sure the correct planting is, or not overcrowding or putting the wrong thing in.
Paul, if you could, I would like to request that when you get that information, maybe we not wait until the next meeting, but if you could pass an update along, it would be helpful before the next meeting if you get it sooner.
Okay, I'll pass it to Tamara, and then she can pass it out to the distributor.
Thank you.
Okay.
Hey, Paul, just take a look at pin oaks, the height, the width, and the spacing on a pin oak when you do that.
Okay.
Yeah, they grow big. All right, anything else for Paul? All right, then let's move on to the treasurer's report. John, you're on.
Okay, can everybody hear me okay?
Yep.
Yep.
Yes,
Okay,
sir.
good. Okay, everybody should have a copy of the treasurer's report for May. We'll go with the first page, which is the bill list for the general fund. We had a check that was approved at the May meeting for Russo Landscaping. We had a direct charge for checks for the general checking account. We had 2 payrolls. We had our charges for the borough credit card, and then check numbers 2973 through 2994. And the total disbursements for the general fund for the month are $76,592.78.
I'll make a motion to pay the bills.
I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to make these payments from the general fund. All those in favor indicate aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Yep, we're
All
all
right,
good.
motion carried.
Okay, thank you. The next page is the liquid fuels. We actually have, instead of our standard 2 bills, we have 3. One is for the traffic signal lighting, and now we have 2 separate bills for street lighting. One are for the standard, I think they're called Cobra heads, and the other is for the more decorative lights. And the total for the month is $1,983.15.
I'll make a motion to approve those 2 bills, payment of those 2 bills.
A
Is there a
second.
second? Okay,
Second.
we have a motion and a second to pay these 3 checks out of the liquid fuels fund. All those in favor say aye.
Can I answer a question, Kathy, please?
Oh, certainly.
Okay. Hey, do we have any, have you done any research on our Pico bills this year versus last year since we put on our new lighting?
Well, this is the first invoice that has the new lighting on it, and it's
Too
about,
early.
I think, $275 to $300 less a month. It looks like it'll be a month. So
How much less?
$200 to $300, she said.
These
around between.
These 2 bills combined are about $1,900, and the bill last month that these are replacing was about $2,200. So as Tamara said, about a $300 difference.
Thank you.
Great.
Okay. So any other questions?
Yeah, just real quick.
Again, all the-
Do you recall
I'm
what
sorry?
the ratio was between the Cobras and the standard?
Yeah, we had, I believe 73 decorative and 147, I think, Cobra heads. So what, 2 to 1/3, 2/3 almost.
All right, thanks.
They are metered different somehow. We pay a different rate or a different tariff or something. That's why we have 2 separate bills now. They can't combine it on the same bill because they're, I don't know, they're different. They're charged
Okay.
different.
Thank you.
Any other questions? If not, all those in favor of the motion to pay these charges to Pico from the liquid fuels fund, indicate so with a hand raise or an aye. Aye.
Aye. Unanimous.
Okay. Next.
Real quick question before I go on to the next page. Tamara, do you hear back from Pico as to whether or not they'll all be direct charges?
I was told they would set it up to be direct charges. And I got a bill for I did get one bill. I don't remember which one it was that's supposed to come out around I think it was July 4th or something, July 6th. I haven't gotten the other one that shows that it was set up to be direct, but I do have an email back from our account rep that said she would have it set up to get directly debited.
Okay. I just want to make sure that we didn't have to worry about possibly writing a check sometime during the month so that we didn't get hit with late fees or anything.
I'll reach out to her tomorrow to try to that, but my understanding is that we will not, but I will see if I can get a confirmation on that.
Okay, great, thank you. Third page is the bill list for the escrow fund. There's only one check this month, 1166, for April engineering charges, and the total is $2,016.25.
There a motion?
So be it. Motion.
Okay, second?
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to pay this bill from the escrow fund. Any discussion, questions? All those in favor say aye. Aye.
That looks unanimous.
All right.
Okay. The rest of the report, the cash receipts, balance sheet, income statement, budget versus actual, and the investments and key indicators. If anyone has any questions, I'd be happy to entertain them.
Yeah, John, with the virus that we had, do you see anything? I know, in talking to some other municipalities, they're scrambling as far as on their budget, if they're going to make their numbers or not. In your professional opinion, do you see any problems with what we have right now?
I don't necessarily see anything from the major items, whether or not the things like the permits, it will come up short in those areas because of repairs, maintenance, things like that not being done. I don't know. Tamara, have you? There obviously was a slowdown. I can't remember if it was last month or the month before on the code inspector's bill. There was very little on that, so I don't know if that's.
Yeah, during the month of April, there really wasn't anything that came in. There also really wasn't anything billed out. I think there was one or two emergency like sewer inspections where a sewer line broke, and we asked Barry Isaac to go out. They paid for a plumbing permit. We asked Barry Isaac to go out and inspect that, but they didn't do any inspections during April. So the code enforcement bill was very negligible, but we didn't get any permits. But I can tell you that since we've reopened, as far as permits and inspections, they're pouring in. So I don't know if it's just the backlog, or if most of the people in TRAP are still working and functioning. And our earned income tax this month was fairly normal. I compared like where we are this year overall to the last year, and I mean, we seem to be in that same, the same revenue as far as that. So I mean, maybe in a month or two we'll have a little bit different data, but as of now, it looks like we'll probably be close to on track.
Mm-hmm.
And as of right now, we won't be doing the Green Light Go project, so that that'll free up some money too. That was budgeted.
Yeah.
I mean, you won't have the improvement, but.
To piggyback on what Tamara said about the earned income tax, on the investments and key indicators, you see that our earned income tax today this year is $408,000. Last year was $406,000. So we're not falling behind. However, we had budgeted an increase for the earned income tax. We're budgeted to do $845,000. So I think we're probably close online. May tends to be one of the biggest months for earned income tax because it's everybody making their annual, if they have annual payments or in additions, they have to pay that by the end of the month after the first quarter. So that usually comes in May. So I think we're going along fairly well at this point.
Thank you.
Okay.
Any other questions?
Anything else, John? Okay, if not, I think the current check signers are what? Brett, Mallory, and me. So we'll need to make sure somebody gets in to sign checks, or two somebodies get in to sign checks.
You're muted, Tim.
I just need one. Brett's already
Oh,
taking
Brett's-
care of them. So I just need one
thank you,
person to
Brett.
come in tomorrow.
What do you mean
Okay.
Brett's already taken care of? Who's the signer? What do you mean?
Brett is
Brett.
a signer, so he's. I just need one signer. Brett's signing, and then I need Kathy or Mallory to come
Okay.
in also, because Phil used to come in on
Okay,
Wednesday.
and then when Brett leaves, we're gonna need somebody, right?
Yes.
Correct.
Right,
Yes,
we'll
but
figure
I
it
just
out.
meant. I'm sorry. I just meant for this set of checks. I need
Got
one
it.
person,
We
Kathy
only
or
need
Mallory,
one.
to sign.
Okay,
Got it.
thank you.
Okay. Mayor is here. Did he provide you with a report, Tamara? No?
No,
Okay.
no, I don't.
Then we're on to you, Borough Manager's report.
Okay, thank you. As we discussed a little bit earlier, I did get notification that, as far as I said, with the Green Light Go grant, we're instructed to finish our design and then submit for reimbursement, and that would be considered closed. I did talk with Barry Isit, with Mary, their grant writer, about getting in an Arley grant, which is due by the end of the month. She said the only thing, okay, so the Arley grant, you don't have to match, but it does help increase your score if you do put a matching amount. The county money that we had under the county transportation program, we had $30,000 that we had applied for a grant. I did talk to the county and they said we could transfer that over if we got an Arley grant, and we could use that. So we could apply that as partial match. And then if we wanted to also put something in, we could offer a 10 or 15 or 20% match. The estimate that McMahon did on for the updated grant would be 402,000, I think it was. I just got that today. So if you did a 10% match, it'd be 40,000. 15% match would be, 60. The only thing we would need is if we want to apply for this part of the scoring mechanism, you have to do a crash modification factor. And it's a way they measure the safety benefits of the proposed projects that weighs crash reduction. And that's not part of the grant writing service. There would be some engineering work that has to be done with that. And they said that would probably be between $1,000 and $1,200. So we would have to, we'd have to understand that would be a cost that would Barry Isit would charge us, we'd incur for the grant application. But the actual application they would cover under their grant writing. So if we want to try to go ahead with that, I need to know, we would need to approve that tonight, because we have to submit our scoping application paperwork this week, and then the grant is due by June 30th.
I would support doing that. Nothing ventured, nothing gained would be my thought.
Agreed.
Yeah, I see it as small potatoes, since we've already got a lot of the engineering done. Let's see what we can do to get this job done. Those intersections are a mess.
So then,
I
would need a motion to apply, and I also need to know if we want to match. Well, if we want to agree to match something.
Since what was our match on the Green Light Go? 20?
It was 20%, and the total was like 68,000 or something. was our total match. But then if you remember, the engineering cost more, so we had to make that up too.
If you want to go 15, what would 15 be then?
So 15 would be about 60,000. And like I said, we could carry that 30,000 over from the county. So for us, it would probably only be about, 10 to 15,000 in matching funds.
Well, to me, that makes a lot of sense, given the fact that if it improves our scoring, and really would be less actually than we would have gone out on Greenlight Go, correct?
Yes. So I would recommend 15%, because it's still going to be a minimal contribution, really, or at least 15%.
Does
Okay,
your
so
scoring get
let's,
better if you go higher or no?
I don't know that. I mean, I don't know that. I mean, it might, but I'm not even sure if they will admit that. You know what?
Right.
I'm hoping that because we did have a grant that was pulled from us, that maybe they'll take that into consideration. However, I mean, you could also argue that we were awarded the grant and we didn't get under construction yet, and if we had been under construction, they would have let it go. So they could say, well, you drug your feet on that grant, so it's your own. I mean, we had a lot of issues that came up with it, increased costs where we had to revise the scope and that kind of thing. But I'm hoping that maybe they'll take into consideration we had originally had a grant and it got pulled, so maybe
Well,
they'll give
look, I
us
mean,
another one.
COVID coming along is no one can predicted that. So I mean, that's just that's a ridiculous thing to penalize us for.
Right.
Pat had a question. Pat?
Oh, no, I'm sorry.
Oh, okay.
I was kind of going along the thinking, I was going along with if 80% of the applications come in at 15% match, if that seems to be a sweet spot of where a lot of municipalities would be landing using the same logic as us, then maybe offering 18 or 20%, maybe even 18%. I'm just thinking of negotiating to buy a house, for example. You go a little bit more and then your offer stands out from the crowd for a little bit. I don't know, as you said, you don't know whether that's going to have any weight, but it could show that we're more serious than just throwing out 15% where 80% of the applications might come in. That's all.
Is Paul still there or did he leave?
Paul's
I'm still here.
Yay.
What do you think, Paul?
I'd really like to defer that to Mary, who's our grant writer, because I can get back to you on that, as far as like, if she feels like if you went to 20%, that's going to give you that little extra edge, like Pat was saying. I can definitely find that out, hopefully by tomorrow for you. I can just give her a call. She would
And
definitely get a feel
if
for that
18
for
will do
herself.
it, we should land there.
So
I like
just
0.99.
Right. Can we have a motion that will give Tamara the freedom to go up to 20% match? Or do we want to specifically limit it to 15 or 18% or whatever?
So just so 20%. So the total projected cost, and we did, just so you know, because I figure we'll be a year out, they did kind of use a inflation rate in the numbers, and we also increased the contingency to 10% from 5% because, like I said, we're going to be looking at a year or two till construction probably. So the total was 408.93. So 20% would be 81,698. And if you take the 31,000 off from the county, you'd be looking at about 50,000 for 20%.
And we were currently in the budget for 60, correct?
Yes.
Okay, so we're still under.
Yeah. Scott, did you make that motion?
I will make that motion to allow Tamara to go up to 20% on the match.
A second.
If it gives us an advantage.
Second.
That's second.
Okay, so we're, by way of this motion, confirm for me, we're indicating we do want Tamara to apply, and she should use, can go up 20% in a match in order to, if it would give us an advantage to go beyond 15% match.
Yes.
Okay, as long as we all agree. Any comments, questions, discussion
So
on the motion?
just to be clear, this is Brett. Paul's going to inquire with Mary, was it you said?
Correct. Mary's our grant writer.
Right. So you think that would be like in a day or two, and then Tamara would
Yes.
act after that? That's what I heard.
Correct.
I'm just, okay.
Yes.
All right. Just
Yeah, that's
confirm.
the plan. So I'm with you there, Brett. Okay, so all those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye or raising your hand. Aye.
That's everybody.
Looks like we're all in favor. Very good.
Okay. The next item on my report, there was in your packet was a voluntary liability waiver. I got this draft from our insurance company, and it was in response to, I reached out to them because we have found that we have people doing things in specifically Rambo Park as far as cleaning stuff up, and Joe had actually stopped somebody that was over there weed whacking and got his information. And our concern is if if somebody's over there and either they get hurt, or say they're weed whacking and they kick up a stone and somebody else gets hurt, how does that affect the borough? And so the insurance company had said, well, they need to sign a waiver, and in that case, then the borough would be covered under our liability insurance if someone got hurt. The person doing the work is a volunteer, and they are not covered under workers' comp. The waiver says they understand that, and if they get hurt, that's at their own risk. So I did forward it to Dave. I don't know if he has any comment, but what she had recommended doing, since we don't necessarily know, you wouldn't have to approve every person who's doing something, but if you approve this acknowledgement and you say that if somebody wants to volunteer for something in the borough, whether it's doing work over there or cleaning up trash or helping with trap days, and they need to sign this agreement that council's approved, and then I can just kind of handle that. If we see somebody over there, or if somebody calls and says they'd like to do something. I know a gentleman from Joan Drive was cleaning out the butterfly pond.
Mr. Kelly.
Yes, thank you. I couldn't remember his name. We can just ask him to sign this. So
I'm in favor of this. This gives you some control over this for a number of reasons. If you read the actual acknowledgement and release, so it's a good idea.
So I have to say, it's probably a good idea. But maybe I'm looking at the wrong thing. What am I supposed to be looking at the customer's bank, item 7B?
No, acknowledgement of and release.
no, borough
I'm sorry.
manager's report, item 2.
There's a form too, volunteer liability form.
Okay, I'm sorry. I was going to say this form really doesn't make sense. So, all right, I'm fine. Thank you. It must be the
Yeah, I'd
May,
be confused if
remember?
I saw that too, Pat.
It's the broken bones. I'm not.
I'm just wondering, should we hang us on, I think all the parks have a place where you could put like a notice up, right? Should we
I
put
think
something to
that,
this effect on there?
yeah, I think that's what I'm gonna do, because the other thing is there's somebody that does stuff over there, and I don't know who it is, and I haven't caught them, and Fred says he hasn't been able to kind of catch them either. And I think, in fairness, if somebody's doing something in our park, we should know what they're doing, and we should be approving it. Because, for example, we get these big piles of brush that just appear that, if I know they're doing it, I can ask Public Works to go over there and take it away.
Right.
And I will be honest, it amazes me that people just go into something they don't own and just start doing things. But I mean, we're grateful that they're willing to do something, but you'd think that they would call and ask first. So I thought it would make sense to hang a notice over there that says, please, before you do anything to borough property, please contact the borough office. We have, a waiver, an acknowledgement form we'd like you to sign, and we'd like to approve the work. So,
When you think of general inconsistencies, you think we require, I'm not saying it's wrong, but we require a permit for people to do certain types of work on their own property. Why would they think that they can just walk onto borough property and do what they want? So it's totally inconsistent, but
Well,
thank
we've
you.
had people walk around our neighborhood clipping low-hanging branches of all the neighbors, so
Oh, I'm tempted to
there's
do
people
that.
are out there.
I am so tempted. Anyway,
really,
The
they
other
usually just call.
important
They
thing
usually
here,
just call
though,
here and ask
Tamara,
us to send them a letter.
yeah. The other thing is the last couple sentences to me about the auxiliary police. Can you address that,
Oh,
please?
Take your
that
hand
was
down.
the other thing too. Sure, I'm sorry. So the other thing that I thought, because the insurance company had mentioned that the auxiliary police are approved, are covered under workers' comp because we, as the borough, approve their use at certain events. Well, funerals, we don't approve necessarily their use individually. So in speaking with Dave, what we thought is we should probably just blanket approve the use of them by Holcomb Funeral Home, or any of the borough funeral homes for funeral services, because we do have reimbursement agreements with those funeral homes, and that way, if they are out on a funeral, they are covered if they would get hurt also.
But wait, they're
Okay.
covered under borough, the borough workers' comp if they get hurt on a funeral?
Yes, because they're acting as an auxiliary police officer, which is a paid position.
But they're acting for the benefit of a private business.
It's no different than if they go out for a historic trap or for the car show or for anybody else.
Historic Trap is a nonprofit.
If they're going out under the auspice of auxiliary police officer, they're covered under the borough's policy regardless of what it's for. So when we set the reimbursement rate, we did increase it last year because our workers' comp went up. So we are calculating some of the cost into their hourly rate, but yes, covered under the borough's policy.
But Tamara, that's the cost of the premium. But if someone gets injured standing in the middle of Main Street and it has to be a claim under our workers' comp, we get hit big time with future premium.
Right. Just like if the fire truck or the ambulance is in
But
an accident.
volunteer fire and emergency responders are doing a different service than providing for a for-profit entity.
Well, Pat, that really is a different issue. So you can make a decision as the council for what activities you're willing to allow the fire police, auxiliary police.
But they're two different things, aren't they? The fire police and auxiliary police. I thought we talked about that.
Well, we're talking about the auxiliary police now. So
okay,
you can make a decision as to what activities or services they're going to participate in. But once you make that decision, wherever they are, and for whatever reason, they're still covered by the workers' comp. So you can have a discussion at another time about whether you think it's appropriate for them to be used by the funeral companies, for instance, right? You can have that.
Or we might say for a for-profit business, if we wanted to not be, specific or targeting. I mean, I think they're needed. I think it's important. I welcome that somebody's there, but I feel uncomfortable that, not that we would want it with the fire police, or volunteer firefighters, but at least if they're doing it in the line of duty to the community, that's one thing. But to take a hit and then we're all pinched if something happens, and then we have to squeal about a potential firehouse or whatever else we're trying to spend money on. Just something to think about, okay?
Pat,
Yep,
also,
Bob's got his hand up. Bob Greenwood. If you want to speak.
Just, in municipalities that have their own police departments that do these services for security for events, traffic control for, you know, a drug company event, or the outlets in Limerick when they have, you know, the big sales and stuff. The person who employs that police officer or traffic director is responsible for the workman's comp, and that's part of the bill that they send that person. So it's,
Right.
it's the norm in the business.
Yeah, but Bob, so if you're saying if that officer got hurt, the other company would have to pay the workers' comp?
No, it comes back on the municipality.
Right. That's what
Right.
I mean, it still comes back on the
The
municipality.
ultimate employer.
Well, and we are billing out effectively in the hourly rate, the workers' comp. So it is
The,
in there.
the
but-
premium, right.
So you're dealing with two
Right.
different issues here. Pat's point is, if you do get dinged on that, your premium's going to go up,
Correct.
and that private enterprise doesn't have to deal with that impact. The municipality does.
Right, significantly.
Except that when they dealing with a funeral home, for example, when they use that person next year, they're going to pay for the increased premium. So it what comes around goes around.
Yeah. Okay.
They'll
I mean, we
get
can
it.
table that for another time.
You know?
Yeah.
But
Right.
anyway, but still, our insurance company would like us to have a blanket approval that our auxiliary, our police can perform services for funeral homes, right?
So there are
Correct.
one or two motions needed here. A motion one first saying that we adopt this for all volunteers on our
Correct.
property.
Right.
And then is there a second motion needed for the fire police? Or
Yes.
is that all
Auxiliary
encompassed in
police.
this?
Yes.
Auxiliary police, excuse me.
Yes.
Separate.
Yes,
Okay,
only
so
because I'd
I-
hate for something to happen and them try to deny coverage. So,
Okay, so I will make a motion on this particular thing that we adopt all volunteers that are doing work on borough property be asked to sign this acknowledgement and release as part of a term of their volunteering.
Is
I'll
there a
second.
second?
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? If not, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Any
Tamara?
nays?
yes.
One nay? We had one, Scott nayed?
Are there any nays? Okay,
No.
Oh, I'm sorry.
good. Motion carries.
So I think this is something when we develop whatever it is, Tamara, if you could start the development, and then I'll do something. We should put it on Facebook and the website so that at least we're out there saying that we
Yep.
tried to communicate to the people. And as I think it was Stu or Brett said, get it posted over there on the kiosk.
Sure.
Perfect.
And I'll go
All right,
collect one
then
from
the
Jim Kelly.
second motion is for the
I have his email. I was going to email it to
auxiliary
him.
police, giving them permission to perform duties for the funeral homes for which we have agreements.
Well, it's more than funeral homes. It's more than
Yeah.
funeral homes because, for example, we used to have the dentist who used to have it for the
All right, so
Oh,
any entity with which we have an agreement. Yeah,
Yeah, so the only thing
Yeah,
we've done since I've been here is the funeral homes, and then the VFW has their car show and the historic trap, but they actually, like, you usually do that as an actual event. The issue with the funeral home is they can't pre-approve the funerals because obviously they don't know they're going to have it till they have it.
Right.
So that's why I asked for a blanket one for the funeral homes, because you don't really have opportunity to pre-approve that.
correct.
So, but I don't understand, what's the downside to the borough? I see more downside to us doing this, approving this motion than I do just letting it continue the way it is being ambiguous.
Well,
I don't feel comfortable with
when
it.
somebody gets hurt, if God forbid somebody got hurt while they were directing traffic for a funeral, when I fill out the workers' comp claim, one of the things they ask is, were they authorized to perform those duties? So what do I say? And then they go, well, can I see the resolution or the minutes or the ordinance? Because I had this happen on when they go out at Christmas, and this is, I mean, it's similar but different. But the volunteer firemen go out at Christmas, they do Santa on the truck, right? And they go around and they hand out candy canes and stuff. Well, somebody got bit by a dog this year.
Yes.
Well, the first thing I got when I filed the claim is, well, were they performing, what firefighting duties were they performing? Well, they weren't. But they were performing fundraising, goodwill, whatever. Okay. Well, I had to send them our ordinance that authorizes those activities to be done by firefighters. And if we don't have it, they can deny the claim.
It's covering your
So,
butts.
right. So then I guess if the claim was denied, I would assume that the potential volunteer or paid person could come back and ask the borough to cover those costs personally. I mean, I'm not an attorney.
Well, once again,
But that would be my.
I have a different point of view when we're talking about for-profit companies. And I think we're specifically saying the funeral homes for this. I don't understand why we're
Be careful about differentiating between for-profit and non-profit. The issue, I think, is what service are they providing? And it's the health, safety, and welfare of the borough residents. So if there are activities, whether they're for-profit or non-for-profit, that could create a traffic jam, could create a highway safety issue, whether it's people coming and going out of a parking lot or whether it's a long procession on the funeral, that it may be in the borough's best interest to provide those services of the auxiliary police to make sure the area is safe. And if it costs you, workers' comp, then it costs you workers' comp. So I would counsel against trying to differentiate those sort of things because, the risks are the same.
Okay, I understand that. Yeah, I do.
Okay, so do we have a motion here at this point?
I'll make that motion.
I lost track of what your motion is, honestly.
Okay, the motion is to include auxiliary police in this form to cover all events.
Well, actually, can I think what the motion should be was that auxiliary police are authorized to perform their duties at the request of the funeral homes and TRAP. Or that's included. Doing traffic control for the funeral homes is included in authorized auxiliary police activities.
I'll change it to that motion then.
Sorry.
Okay, is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to include traffic control for funeral homes and auxiliary police activities. Any more discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Unanimous.
Opposed? Motion carries.
I'm just asking, was that unanimous? I'm sorry. I didn't know if everybody.
Yes.
It
Okay,
was with great deal of reservations, but
I can put no for you if you want.
no, I mean, I'm kind of split.
Okay. For informational purposes, I did include in your packets, I sent out a couple of notices of violations to the Getty to see if we can spur them to do some cleanup on that site. I had sent out a couple emails and hadn't gotten a response, and I know that Phil had made a couple phone calls, and I to my knowledge, he never got a response either. So at least maybe we can get the grass cut or something. So they went out last week. The library had issued a letter stating that they just thanking you for your continual support and giving you an update on their construction project. It's nearly completed, and they are preparing to reopen the library in phases once the state has issued those instructions and allowances. So that's there for informational purposes. And then I also included, since we are now in the yellow phase and we do have the beginnings of reopenings, I tried to come up with some kind of a plan or an operations plan, as we're required by the governor to do as a business. We did get input from Sienna Belwar McAndrews, who is the attorney that works with our insurance company, and they had stated that just because we're a municipal, they sent literature out to the municipality saying that just because you're a municipality doesn't mean you're exempt from, the same requirements that other businesses are. So, we have obviously, there's only 2 employees, so it's a little bit easier here, but, Ellen and I are aware of cleaning and disinfecting procedures. We are social distancing. I had Public Works, we had asked them to install plexiglass over the window at the administrative assistant seat, and it has a hole cut in it, that we can pass documents through, but it is a barrier shield so that people can't just lean in through the window, and provide some protection for Ellen. We've been operating in the office for probably the last 4 or 5 weeks, but it has still been closed to the public. And my thought process, we could start opening up to the public through appointments, asking people if they needed to come in for something to please try to make an appointment so that we don't have multiple people in the lobby at the same time. This was kind of my idea. If people have other ideas, we can do that. The parks, we did take down the closed signs and put up notices that, under the governor's orders, there's still supposed to be less than 25 people in any gathering, and please follow social distancing guidelines. And then also that a notice that we are not cleaning or sanitizing the playground or the pavilion equipment, so that if people are using it, they understand that it is not cleaned. Getting some hand sanitizer for the lobby area, a little hand sanitizer station. Other than that, I think we're doing everything we can, but we are here, we're operating, taking care of business.
Have you had any occasions, Tamara, where people have come in and made you feel at risk or unsafe, or do you feel that everybody's pretty much doing their best?
Well, I'll be honest, we haven't really had anybody in.
Good.
We have the mail slot. We have a box out there for plans or bigger items. We've just asked people, if people call and ask about it, we'll say if you want to put it in the box and knock, we'll come out, wave, acknowledge you, and then when they walk off the porch or whatever, we'll walk down the steps, we'll open the door and get it. If people have had issues with they can't find a permit, or they don't have a printer, we'll put it in an envelope and put it out in the box for them, or mail it to their house, email it to them. So I mean, we haven't really had any issues where somebody's had to come in, but if somebody really wants to come in, I guess we would ask that they would wear a mask. And actually the county, I think, sent out the signage that we're supposed to require people to wear masks, and I can take them over in the meeting room and try to help them out, or Ellen can try to help them out. So
Thank you.
Sure.
So, Tamara, there is a couple of signs that you need to post if public is going to come in. And one sign is like a stop sign that says, if you're sick, don't come in.
Okay.
And the other is just the 3 big things: keep social distancing, wear a mask, and use hand sanitizer. So I would
Okay.
recommend that you have a hand sanitizer right on the inside of the doorway and ask everybody to use it. So that at least they've done that before they've approached the window.
Okay.
Mhm.
There's just those sort of things. I mean, we just went, in my office this week, we just went open to the public. But we're open to the public by appointment only. We haven't had any appointments yet. I think I'm my first one on Friday. So,
Okay.
and we're allowing one client or group of clients in at a time. So we don't have people waiting in the waiting room, and you just try to minimize the contact that people will have.
Mhm.
Right. And that's what I did order, a hand thing that I can put on the wall. I was going to put it by the door, but it hasn't arrived yet, but so I don't think there's any of these concerns or problems that we haven't addressed during the last 3 months. I think we've gotten people what they've needed, and I think we've been relatively quick to respond, and even we even were processing plans and reviewing plans when we weren't issuing permits, so that once we had the go ahead from the governor to issue permits, we could issue them. So
Tamara?
okay. Yes. Yes.
Got a question. Now, if we go into the green stage ever, what does that mean, and what does that mean with the borough, and what does that mean with meetings? I think I talked to you about it, and I think you're going to talk to the consortium regarding what is going to be done in the future.
Yeah, we have our next consortium meeting, I think that next week, it's usually the third Friday of June. So we usually talk about what other people are doing, but the issue I think for us is going to be the size of our meeting room. I think even in the green, I'm not sure. I'm trying to remember. I think you're still, well, in the
Yes.
yellow, we can't really meet over there because of social distancing. We can't maintain 6 feet, I think, with all of council and public if they wanted to come. In the green, I don't know if the 6 feet recommendation is still in effect or not. So
It is.
I think you're still going to need a social distance, even in the green. You can have more people if you have room for more people, but I think you're still going to need the social distance. And I think that could go on for quite a while. So
Yeah.
one of the things Tamara and I talked about was whether council wanted to start looking for a meeting place other than Borough Hall. If you wanted to get together in person, you should have a place where, like Tamara said, not only can council spread out, but the public can spread out. So I would think about that as a possibility, but the meeting hall would have to be in the borough limits.
Can I pipe in for like one second? I will say that Royersford did theirs outside one day, just in case you guys really needed to do it in person. I saw it looked ridiculous, but there we are.
And Sarah, it's funny. I thought about that because I have a zoning hearing I have to do, and we may have to do that. But my concern is, what if it rains?
Yeah,
Yeah,
I would recommend that Tamara do whatever research you need to do to see what possible rooms there are in the borough, and get that information together right away, and then start reaching out to those places. It can be a church, it can be a school if they're open. And start locking that down, because this could go on for quite a while, and I don't think we want to do this. It's going to make things difficult when we have to have a hearing, and you have a conditional use application to do now. And it's not that we can't do it virtually, but it makes it much more difficult to manage it, to have witnesses and exhibits and all that jazz. So I would recommend we try to look for a place.
Okay, Pat has something to say.
I would like to just say, don't overlook on Main Street, as far as having a nice, large meeting area, community music school. St. Luke's would also be handicap accessible. Augustus has the elevator now. I don't think their room is quite as nice. It feels more like church-like, but I think that Community Music School and St. Luke's both without me thinking too hard. And they both probably would charge because they'd have to have a custodian unless they gave us a key. But, or South, because that's where we vote now. But I don't know if they would charge even more. So those three come readily to mind as something that could be suited to our needs.
The other thing is, just because the county goes to green, or even now, we can always go back to red. So the minute it goes to, we change phase is not necessarily the day I want to be moving into a new meeting platform. So we either need to have a bigger room or or get very comfortable with what we're doing electronically.
We could build a combined firehouse and borough hall.
Yeah, it's been discussed.
You technically,
Yeah.
you technically could have meetings now publicly, live, if you had the space to do it.
Right. Yes, we could if we had the space. Limited to 25 people.
I don't think we would want to, I think we need to accommodate that if we can.
Yeah, but just because the governor says it's okay doesn't necessarily mean we need to jump into it. So anyway.
Well, don't get me started on the
But
governor.
yes, Tamara is going to go ahead and see what's available. All right.
All right. Thank you. The salt shed. As you know, and Kathy's been bringing up, we do owe some repayment on the salt on the property. Collegeville did send an email late last week that they voted as a borough to repay the full amount in a lump sum this year, but they are making that payment contingent upon an agreement being executed with TRAP that we agree to repay our portion. So I don't have anything from them yet. Jeff said that they were working on something, but I just wanted to let you know that. And then I guess we had budgeted $40,000 this year for salt shed costs. So I don't know if you want to look at potentially maybe paying back $40,000 a year till it's paid off. We currently owe $117,000 and change, or what you'd like to do. But I just wanted to let you know that Collegeville did vote to pay back the full amount.
Dave?
Yeah. Yes.
If they go ahead, and I don't know where they got this lump sum that they're paying back, but that's besides the point. Are we allowed to, can we pay it back our own way, or do we have to do the same way as them?
Well, we need to see their agreement. It sounds like they're not going to require TRAP to pay it all back at once, but they want a binding agreement, as I would if you were going to pay the whole thing up front and then you wanted to rely on Codgel to pay it off over time. I would want you to have an agreement that they will. So this is just reverse, so.
Yeah, like one to build a building, right? An agreement?
Right. Kind of like that. Exactly.
Well,
So,
this just floors me that they decided to do this, but whatever. So,
Agree to it and then not
okay,
fund it.
now they're planning to provide us with a first draft of an agreement. Tamara, is that your understanding?
Well, that's what Jeff said, and I figured that was my understanding, and I figured I'd let them pay their person first, right?
Okay.
But I did tell Jeff that I was hoping that it wouldn't be super complex. It would be like something like TRAP agrees to pay back the full amount plus the interest based on over the next, however many years or whatever. But and he agreed, but we don't know what they'll come up with at their attorney level. So we'll see.
Well, we can certainly discuss it at Public Works. So, okay.
Let's see. Okay, landscaping was done at Borough Hall this past week, with the exception of the front bed, which we had an ant infestation. So I got that taken care of, or I got that treated, and then in another week or so, when that seems to die down, they'll do that bed. They were over at Rambo Park today doing the landscaping, and I don't know if anybody's been at Borough Hall or been on the trail, but Russo has done a really nice job with the mulch so far. Even the trail looks really nice too. So
You want to cover the tree too?
I'm sorry, what?
Do you want to cover the tree?
Sure. There were a couple trees that came down over at Rambo Park during the storm. One is not anywhere near the trail. It's in the meadow, but it's pretty big. So I asked Joe if when they have time, they could get that cleaned up. There's another branch that has fallen, and it's caught on some other branches, but it is over the trail. So I asked if they could get that, and they were supposed to do that today. And then this afternoon, I met with the neighbor at 67 West 5th, Dominic, something with an M, I think his last name starts with, but there's a couple trees on the back right corner of his property that he's concerned about falling on. He has a shed back there. They look like they might be dead. I'm going to have to call in, I guess, somebody to get a quote and then go from there, or see if which trees they think are potentially problematic. He did have one that fell from Rambo into his yard. Didn't hit anything, but I'm going to ask Joe if they'll clean that up also, since it did. I mean, it's our tree, but it fell into his yard. So, and let's see. I didn't see anything that looks like it was going to fall on his shed immediately.
Okay.
I did receive a conditional use application, and we do need to pick a date for that. And it's for 421 West Main Street, and the proposal is for a ballroom lesson dance studio within a separate building that's to be built behind the existing residential structure. At this point, I guess I'm really just looking for a date. It is going to be on Planning Commission's agenda next week. We'll be doing our first virtual Planning Commission meeting. Dave had suggested, since looks like we will have to do this virtually, that we potentially do it either a separate date or prior to the regular Borough Council meeting, so that it's not part of the 7 o'clock regular meeting. He just thinks it might be a little bit easier to have all the witnesses and everybody if it's kind of a separate meeting. So
offer up, who's scheduled.
Like I said, and if July 7th works for everybody, I mean, if we can do it at 6 o'clock, I mean,
that works.
We could do that. Or we could look at another date. It's kind of up to the council.
If we're all ready to go at 6, I don't think it'll take longer than an hour. So I would recommend doing it on the 7th.
Okay, with me.
Fine with me.
Yep.
I'm good.
So we're going to have the exhibits from the applicant in advance, and Scott, you'll have to load them up.
Well, actually, I did get a GoToMeeting account for the borough,
okay.
so I
can
coordinate it, but I might need to figure out how to how to show those. So.
You should be able to share your screen, and
Okay.
then the exhibits will be on this, half our monitor,
Right.
so everybody can see the same thing, and the witnesses can see it, and we can number them in advance, and so everybody's knowing what we're talking about while we're doing it.
Yeah, Bob Greenwood has a question.
Yeah.
Yeah, so on the current topic, Tamara, do I need to be there to express those concerns I already talked to you about for that or not?
You don't need to be there. I mean, I have the email from you, so I can just enter that as an exhibit.
Yeah, because like I said, from what I've seen so far, the access to that building will be very limited for us to get in there for emergencies. Plus, it's a dead end with no, no exit out the back. So I think
Right.
that'll limit us safety wise. And another quick thing, I didn't think of this earlier, but while you were talking about the parks and stuff, who is responsible for the footpath around the Rosewood development? Is that their homeowners association?
Yes.
All right, there's a
Yes.
lot of trees and branches blocking that path. If somebody could notify them.
Like downed trees, you mean?
Branches.
Or branches? Okay.
Branches, yeah.
Okay. Okay, so then we'll schedule that for July 7th at 6 o'clock. Just informational again on we do have a zoning hearing application for 118 Clayhor. They're asking for a variance on the side yard setback for a garage, and that has not been scheduled yet. So when that gets scheduled, I will let you know that. And then I have resolution number 20-09, which is, again, it's just a records destruction, but one of the things that we've been doing, or we did during, Ellen was working on when it was quiet here during April, was going through older records and boxes, and so we would like to dispose of the records that are listed on that attachment. It's all in line with the records destruction requirements put out by the PA Historical Commission.
So you just
Okay,
looking for a
is there a
motion?
motion to approve
Yep.
this resolution?
I'll make that motion.
Okay, is there a second?
I'll second it.
Okay, there's a motion and a second to approve resolution 2020-09 for records destruction. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
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 Unanimous.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Okay, in your packets, there's your MS4 educational paper this month about fertilizing and how fertilizing your lawn can affect, the stormwater pollution, and gives you some ideas for how to help keep the water clean. You have a copy of the permit report. If anybody has any questions on that, I can try to answer them. And after that, I think that's all. Stu.
Yep. Okay, I know we've talked about it. Do you want to give the console update of the problems that we're having with the lights, especially in the Silverleaf development, et cetera?
Sure. So some of you that live in the developments that have the decorative lights, which would be actually most of you, Joan Drive, Pacer, Meadowview, Silverleaf, they all have the decorative lights, and we've found that a lot of them are on during the day.
Yes.
I have notified the contractor. They are going to be swapping out the sensors in those that are on. They're waiting for some to come in, and then they're also going to be sending them back to the manufacturer for some testing to see if there's either potentially a bad lot, and if it's something with the sensor, or they said the other thing that sometimes it can be an electrical issue. I'm hoping that's not it, that it's on the sensor end, but I don't have an answer. I know there's a problem. We do have the one, we still haven't closed the project out. We still are holding a retainage. The contractor has been responsive when I emailed them, and they're doing what they can. We have a 1-year parts and labor warranty plus a 10-year part warranty. But we are aware that there's a problem. I drove around one day last week and I think I probably found like 15 to 18 lights that were on in different places. So,
I keep
and
texting them to you.
yeah, and
One on
you've been
the-
sending them, and Stu's catching them, and Brett's catching them, and Kathy's, yeah. So
Well, the interesting one, I know on Kelso Circle, because I noticed today the one was on, but that one's got pretty good tree coverage right on top of it. So some of them might be
Oh.
related to trees being in, full bloom now. But I
That
know,
could be.
I know the one
I
I
over
wonder
my
if
spot,
that's
I don't
why,
think
because
has that coverage.
they didn't all have the problem in the beginning. So I wonder if maybe that is an issue with the trees starting to have leaves. And then, I mean, honestly, what we'd probably have to do is do some tree trimming, and that's not necessary. We'd have to talk about that, because that would be an extra charge. That's not something that, they would
As long as we don't get
probably
people that
cover
do
under
it,
the
they
contract.
chop half the
Yeah,
tree.
that's what I was gonna say.
Yeah.
Yeah, they make a big cross in
No,
the
the
tree.
SHIGO method, that's the SHIGO method. That's the approved method. The light on Center Avenue does not have any trees around it, and it's been on during the day, but the men were out there working on it. And
Okay.
I don't really know if it has been fixed or not. I haven't paid attention lately.
Well, now yours isn't a that's not decorative though, is it? That's one of
Oh,
the, like,
it looks
the
decorative.
cobra heads? Okay.
Better than the last one we had.
Okay. Because, yeah, I wasn't aware of that one, but I'll check that out and make sure that's fixed too.
How much are we holding?
Decorators weren't networked.
No,
money-
right. Of course, the ones that are the issued are the decorative ones, and they're not networked. We're holding 5% of the total, and we also, I mean, they do still have 3 lights that they have to put up. Like I said, because they stole 3 they borrowed 3 lights to put at Rambo, and so they're waiting for those. They were supposed to be done this week or next week, I think. So, because we do need to get that closed out this month, because I have to have the grant paperwork, so that has to be done in June, and they're aware of that. So.
But we're still saving money.
That's
That's
right.
true.
$300.
All right, anything else for Tamara?
Hey, one other
yes.
question. One other question, quick. It's going to go back to Scott. I mean, not Scott. I mean, to Paul. You with me, Paul? And Tamara. Paul.
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay. It seems like every time it rains, especially hard, there's always a problem over at that new house over in Betcher, in which they're getting wash away right on Betcher Road. Are you aware of that? And I think I mentioned it to Tamara. I don't know if the blankets are on there good or whatever, but you shouldn't have all sorts of debris going on the road.
We are aware of that. I had Scott from our office. He had out there, I believe yesterday, the day before, and I'm waiting to get his report and talk to him on it. So we are aware of it, and we're checking on the situation to see if all the ENS measures are in place properly, if we need to do any kind of repairs or something like that. So I'm hopefully in the next 2 days or a couple of days, we'll have that resolved.
When are they responsible to refinish grading and putting seed or straw mats up and down there? But that would take care of some of the erosion.
They were finalizing putting stuff in, so this summer they were planning on doing it. I don't know, I think their schedule changed with this COVID and all that, so we'll have to check with them to see what his schedule is now, because he was already kind of supposed to be in the midst of doing it, but I know he got pushed back because of this COVID. So I'll double check with them, the developer, to find out what his schedule is for seeding and fine grading this.
Thank you.
Okay, and somebody else, Pat, yeah, go ahead.
So is there any update on the Rose property and the water issues over there? I found out that 2 of his big trees back there came down because they were sitting in water, and more water than usual, and it's been. So is there any update on how that design is working out? There were alternates that were talked about, and Paul, do you have any way in there?
It's Pat, it's actually on as an executive session topic.
All right.
Yeah. Okay, if there's nothing else for Tamara, Dave, what do you have for us?
Trying to unmute myself. So on the agenda is ordinance 455. As you can recall, this was a change to the saldo as it deals with in lieu of open space. And we had it originally on the agenda and teed up. Tamara, refresh my memory how long ago it was. It was advertised for, was it March or? You're muted, Tamara,
Sorry, it was originally for April.
for April.
And then we opened the hearing and recontinued it until June 9th.
June 9th. And so we have it on your agenda. We don't have a court reporter present. Our thought was June 9th is when you would probably go public and live. And apparently that obviously hasn't happened. So I would prefer that we re-advertise this and then we decide if you're going to have a place that we can be public, we'll do it then. If not, we'll do it at the next meeting in a virtual setting. I don't want to drag this on much longer. I was hoping to have it at a live meeting. So the court reporter needs to be present to make the record. It's a change to saldo. We can have one, virtually and do it that way. And
The recording of the meeting isn't adequate, Dave?
I don't know. I've been concerned. I haven't seen where anybody has discussed whether a virtual recording is sufficient for purposes of creating that kind of record. So I'll tell you my concern. It's a saldo change. And the reason why I'm a little bit more cautious about this is that if we don't do it right, someone in the future could say you didn't adopt it correctly and therefore it's void,
Right.
even a year from now or 5 years from now. So I don't want to take that chance. I'd rather us make sure we do it right under the circumstance.
Got
So
it.
my recommendation is let's continue it tonight. And if you think we're going to go live anytime this summer, schedule it for another meeting. If not, let's do it virtual and we'll plan to do it that way. And it doesn't look like we're going to go live in July, right?
No.
So I would suggest let's continue to July, see what happens by August, and if either have it on the agenda as a virtual meeting in August or live if you're live at that point. I mean, one way or the other, let's get it
Do you
done.
need a recommendation? Do you need a motion or what?
Motion
what do we need to do?
Motion to schedule this thing for the August meeting.
Yep, I'll make that motion.
All right, is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay, any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay, any nays? Motion carries.
The other thing that's not on my agenda, but you discussed earlier Borough Line Road, and Tamara send me the agreement while we're having our meeting, and I reviewed it. So the agreement you have with Upper Providence is for repair and maintenance, which is pothole repair, snow and ice removal. It seems like minor repairs to the roadway. Any substantive rebuilding of the road or any stormwater management would have to be by a separate agreement with Upper Providence. It would be shared. You have to work out. And so if you have a water issue that's coming under the road that's undermining the road, and it's, for instance, Upper Providence responsibility to fix the water problem, then we'd have to have a conversation with them. So does that answer the question about that?
So we need at least enough of an engineering look at it to evaluate whether it truly is a water issue, which is what we believe, but
Right. Is it just maintenance, so you have to fix some potholes,
Yeah.
or is there undermining going on? And if there is undermining, you know, you need an engineer to do that, and then we have to have a conversation with Upper Providence, because they should share the cost with us for a bigger project.
Right. Well, since it's on our side of the road, maybe we should initiate or our maintenance piece of the road, maybe we should initiate the initial look. What do you think?
I agree. I agree.
Yeah.
I would have
So
our
that's
engineer
in Paul's court to do that?
Yes. And I would have them do initial review to see whether or not it's more serious than just a maintenance issue.
So do we have a motion to authorize Paul to take a look at that? Or do we need an estimate first?
Well, it's, you know, I mean, you don't need one. It's how you wish to proceed.
Yeah. So what do you guys want to do? Do we want to just get Paul, do you think this is, what do you know, just to go look at a road and say, yeah, this is a bigger problem? Is that something that needs,
I think we'll just handle it as, you know, I'll go out there, make an observation, and based on that, if I can see what the problem is right away, then you know, if I think it's, hey, you're gonna have to get a little bit more in depth at that point in time, I think it'd be prudent for you to get an estimate as far as what kind of involvement that would be as far as a study or something like that. But I think the initial, just an hour or two with an observation point would probably be sufficient for you.
Okay, then is council comfortable directing Paul to go ahead and do that?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, okay, very good. And do you have anything else, Dave?
I do not, except for a couple items in executive session.
All righty, then, can I have a motion to accept the staff reports?
I'll make that motion.
Second.
Okay, and we have second, okay, a motion's been made to approve and accept all the staff reports. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed?
Yeah.
Motion carries. All right, committee reports, administrative
Good.
services.
Could I ask that we move fire to the front so we can let Mr. Greenwood go?
Oh, sure, go
15.
ahead. Yes, thank you, Bob.
No, good evening. First off, Mr. Davis, thank you and welcome to the council. At any time, if you have any questions or concerns, or if you want to stop up at the firehouse, we'll be happy to give you a tour and you'll see why we need a new building.
There we go.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
So the trend for fire and EMS is still continuing to be slow. We had 23 calls for the month, and ambulance was down 200 calls total out of all three stations. And this month we had, you'll see when I submit the report, but we've already jumped up over what we had last month just because of the storm. During the storm, we responded to 14 separate incidents. So we had a total of 14 people in the station staffing the vehicles during that storm that responded to all those incidents. And we're also requested the one night during the potential civil disobediences at the shopping centers and the plazas, Upper Providence Township. All the fire departments that man Upper Providence Township did have one truck staffed from about 8 o'clock till midnight. So we did participate in that in case there was any kind of problems, but thank goodness there was nothing to that venture. And Mr. Martin, I'm sure will fill you in on any kind of meetings that we've had. We started our meetings with him, and we thank you for your support. The public still is very appreciative of us during these times, and the people still thanking us and giving us thumbs up and waving at us makes us feel good that we're worthwhile out there.
Mm-hmm.
I can sort of add a little bit of flavor to that then. We did have a virtual meeting last week with Chief Greenwood, Tom McPoyle, who's the president of the fire company, and Brandon. And we discussed basically the financial statements, which I believe you guys have been provided. Is that correct, Tamara?
Yes.
Yeah. One of the things you'll note there is an excellent cash position for those of you who've been paying attention over the many years of almost over $700,000. And that was largely due to a 340 PPP loan that the EMS group obtained through TD Bank, which is a great job. That's really boosted their cash position. They also collected an additional $160,000 of back billing that they hadn't expected or anticipated. So that also helped boost both profitability and the cash position there. I know Stu had asked me a question about whether that was repeatable or just a one-time hit. And I don't know. I'd have to go readdress that or discuss that with Tom in greater detail about his things. I do know Tom has been working pretty diligently with to think about potentially separating EMS and fire. He's going to be reaching out to John Muir, the attorney that we had engaged with Upper Providence when we were looking at that regionalization option. But then there'll be more of that to come. The fire company's also formed, two committees. One to look and examine the options for getting a new ladder truck. As many of you may know, particularly or may not know, the new council members, we steadily put probably $40,000 to $80,000 away over a series of time, and I think have somewhere in the neighborhood of $500,000 to $600,000 of money set aside towards the new ladder truck. New ladder truck will be somewhere in the $1 million to $1.2 million range, and they have a committee that's sort of beginning to do a deep dive on that. So that is going to be something that we're going to have to engage with the fire company on to talk about funding. Also, in the longer term, they've developed a building, which consists really of 3 committees: a design committee, an operations committee, and a finance committee. And I think from at least a liaison standpoint, we need to think about having a borough individual on those committees. The design committee is actually, more of a traditional construction design, sort of outlining some potential requirements and things of that nature. The operations committee will be working with the design committee to sort of say, okay, what operationally do we need this building to do, and what features does it need to have? And the finance committee is obvious, is how we raise that. And I don't want to get into a long discussion about the finances, other than to say that given the potential size of this, and their typical pancake breakfast raises maybe $1,000 or $2,000, I think there's going to have to be a significant amount of public funding on that effort as well. And that's been something we've talked about for some time. And I think at this point, what I'd like to do is solicit the group and see who would like to I obviously am very interested in doing it. Participating in 1 or 3 of these committees, probably would be good to have 3 individuals doing that. Phil was, and Nevin before him was pretty instrumental in these efforts and was pretty active in this as well. So I don't know if in the group here there's anybody that's got an interest level in doing that with, working with the fire company. I am looking for two volunteers on that at some point. So I don't know if we need to answer that question today, but I'd encourage all of you to give that some thought, consideration, and talk to me about it. And I'd like to not wait too long. I'd like by next meeting to be have us engaged fully with the fire company. I am definitely planning participating at some level in this right now. And then the beyond those 2 issues, which are pretty significant issues, I also wanted to sort of Dave, readdress with you, where are we with the ordinance that we needed to bill insurance companies on car accidents? We had talked about this at various points. There's one for housing and one for cars. The housing, billing a homeowner was a little bit different, we thought, because they were a borough resident, but there's a lot of external people that have car accidents in here, and we should be able to do that. I think as a benchmark, Bob and the guys told me that typically every year Collegeville collects $10,000 a year, Upper Providence as high as $35,000 a year on these things. So, you know, it's not huge money, but it's still money that you know, we can recover. So, and then they can recover. So I think it would be smart to probably move on an ordinance along those lines. I know we had talked about it and there was going to be some research. I just don't know where it left off.
Yeah, and I gotta tell you, it's been dropped off my plate, so I'll have to pull that back up and see where it is. See what we need to do.
Yeah, if you would do that, that would be great. You know, we'll address it again in a future meeting. With that, any questions or comments? Guess not.
Nope, not seeing any.
Okay, guys, well, give me some thoughts on volunteering there, Stu.
No, I said, well, I said I was going to volunteer with the finance, et cetera. So
Okay.
I told you I was going to help you out with that. I'm
Okay.
with you.
Okay.
Scott,
Thanks.
in our
Anything I
business,
can help you with, Bob, let me know.
Scott, in our business, it's volunteer or voluntold.
Yeah, right.
No, I volunteered beforehand, so I'm having problems with my phone right now again.
Okay, so Bob, when you get a chance, let's talk about some details on that and you know, what steps or when we can get engaged on that. And with that, that's all I have on traffic and safety right now.
All righty.
Thank you, folks. Good night.
Yep.
Thank you, Bob.
Thanks, Bob.
All right, administrative services. Oh, I'm
Just
sorry.
to say,
Yeah.
we just want to flip them up in future.
Yeah, I think it would be nice if we could put Bob at the top of that list so we can release him a little bit earlier. That's the one thing he did ask
Oh, okay.
in terms of the agenda.
All right, we'll see what we can do to move him. That'll be fine. Administrative Services Committee, I know my name's on it, but I'm gonna let Tamara address the Medicare issue for Ellen, her premium. Tamara, you're muted. It's all right.
Sorry. Okay, so I had talked last month. I had given you a memo, and we talked briefly in executive session that you know, the Medicare premium would be coming that we've been paying directly will now come out of Ellen's Social Security payments directly. So I was asking to reimburse her, and we didn't, because we were doing things virtually, we couldn't come out of that meeting and vote. So I'm asking, I guess, for a vote to authorize reimbursement of the Medicare payment in lieu of insurance. Since we don't provide her with insurance, she gets Medicare, but we did agree to reimburse that expense. So it was, I believe it's $438 a quarter, at least for this quarter. And it would start July, and then we would just cut her a check once a quarter for an expense reimbursement.
I'll make that motion.
Is there a second?
Yeah, I'd be happy to second.
All right, we have a motion and a second to reimburse Ellen for the cost of her Medicare that's now being taken from her Social Security. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
We don't have a picture for Mallory, but we don't need, yeah, I don't see her, so we don't need her. She's for this one. We're all here. So. Okay, motion carries.
Okay.
Um,
So
I
it's
don't have
5-0
anything
is what
else.
we're saying. And okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
If Mallory's no longer at the meeting, you should note that. I don't.
Yeah.
It's David
It
Perlin.
looks
so
like
maybe-
she just left.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Just so in case she comes back, but at least for that vote, that she wasn't
Mhm.
in the meeting.
Okay.
Okay, yeah, I was trying to chat with him, but I don't see it. All right, and then we do have a resume from Teresa Pammer to fill an open spot in the on Planning Commission. Oh, you wanted, yeah, 15E, so we wanted to deal with that later. Okay, we can deal with that later. Next is Finance and Streets. Anybody have anything that we haven't already covered they want to talk about with Finance and Streets? That was Phil. We'll deal with that later. Parks and Rec, Stu, you got anything else?
Tamara covered it. I have a lot probably to talk about regarding regional planning. I'm not regional
Okay.
planning, the sewer authority. I either can do it now or later. Pardon me?
Yeah, we can get to that. We can get to
Okay.
that when we talk about CTMA.
Okay, that's fine.
Okay, the Business Committee, that's you, Stu.
Yep, haven't been able to meet with anybody.
Okay. Planning, zoning, and ordinances. So this is where you've got the resume of Teresa Pammer and her interest in being a member of the Planning Commission.
Who would she be replacing technically? Connie Peck?
We could start with Connie. Because we still have another opening, right?
With Dave getting pushed over.
Dave who?
Dave
Davis.
Davis.
Yeah.
Well, you're saying opening. I thought that he already had a month in.
So, okay, Dave Davis is on Planning Commission. He does not have to resign under Borough Code or our ordinance. You can have up
Right.
to 2 members that are crossover. So right now, the open position that you have is Connie.
Oh, Mallory's back. Hi, Mallory.
Okay, Mallory's back. Okay, so you have the open position by Connie, and you do have an alternate, which is Mark Schaefer. So you can move Mark Schaefer up, or you could just appoint somebody to the position, and whatever you want to do. And then, like I said, when Brett would resign, you could, if you wanted, I mean, if Dave Davis either did want to resign or you wanted to move him to the liaison, you could do that. But I did ask Dave, and he's obviously on here, so I did ask him if he would, continue in the Planning Commission at least this month, or even past that if he was interested, because we did have a shortage and I needed to make sure I had a quorum for June. So he said he would. But you have one opening from Connie right now. You might have another if someone else would resign.
So there's one opening for a council member and one opening for a member of the public? Or are there 3
Potentially.
Right.
positions?
No, right now there's
we have
only
the
one.
public.
In general, overall, how many slots? We have one council person as a liaison. That was Brett.
Right, and he would still be on, I would assume, until July, when he would resign. So he's right. So yeah, so in July you would need a new council liaison, unless I don't know what the pre-qualifications of the liaison is. Like, I don't know if for example, if Dave is on there, can he be the liaison and a member, or do you have to have 2 separate? I don't know, because I'm not sure what the requisites of the liaison are. That's not something I'm familiar with in my prior places.
I think a member of Borough Council that's also on the Planning Commission can be the liaison.
So then we only have 2, but they could wear 2 hats, you're saying? 2 of the 3 hats.
Well, when you say 2 of the 3 hats, you can have up to 2 council members on the Borough Planning Commission, right? One of them could be the liaison, the person that reports to Borough Council
Right.
what's happened,
But a liaison is not the council member. You have one council member and one lay person as voting members. And then you have a separate council person as a liaison. I thought we had 3 in the past. Brett, weigh in.
Well, we had, so it was usually what? There's what, typically 5 members, and because it was a 3-person quorum, right? Tamara? 5?
You have to have 3 to have a quorum, yes, because you have 5 people. All right.
We don't have, let's say we don't have the 5 seats anymore, right? Because we lost Matt, right? I think we picked up,
So you're currently you have Bob Swartley, Steve Kursick, and Jack Washaleski, and Dave Davis. Connie Peck was a regular member. She resigned. When Matt resigned, you moved Connie on as a regular member and made Mark Schaefer a alternate.
right? So we currently have 4 of 5 possible members, with Dave currently representing one of those 4.
Correct.
And I was the liaison, which is outside of that.
Rather than thinking about where we're going to be in a month, can we just accept Teresa for today's open meeting, and then when we reassign everyone, we can figure this out?
Can I just, no, because
Yeah, I mean,
so
we've got
5
one open spot right now. Let's just accept Teresa
Can I
for
just-
this. Then
Can I just ask for clarity? We're close. So Brett, you're saying 5 members on the planning commission. Right now, I mean, I don't care who the people are. I don't care about that, but it's
We
on the
we
planning
currently
commission.
have 4 of the 5 possible.
4
Right.
are lay people, residents at large, whatever you want to call them. Of the 5 people, there's 1 council member and there's 1 council member that's a liaison who is
No,
a 6th person but doesn't vote.
No, there's nobody from council on there except me, and I'm in the liaison position. So I don't vote or anything during those meetings.
But then you're a 6th person. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, so if you want,
So
yeah,
I'm
for the
saying there
total
are 5
count,
people voting on the planning commission. 4 of them are residents at large. 1 of them is a council person.
doesn't have to be, I don't
No.
believe.
Okay, because that's the
No.
way it was. That's what I'm trying to clarify,
No.
how the makeup of the planning commission, and then fill in, whether Dave's over here or not, or Teresa, but Teresa's coming on, so she's coming on a layperson position, a regular opening.
If she's appointed, yes.
Your planning commission right now is 5 lay people and 1 alternate and 1 liaison. So 4 of
So
your,
that's 7.
Oh.
because the liaison isn't part of the committee or the commission. He's just there as a liaison. Like he
Right.
doesn't vote, he doesn't. So
Okay,
your actual commission is 5 lay people
right,
and 1 alternate.
okay. And that alternate can be a council person.
Yes. Yes, it could, because you can have up to 2 of your members could be council people.
All right, I'm fine. Whatever.
Does that clear it up for you, Pat? Does that?
Well, I think it was worth going through.
okay,
because
so let's going.
shows we need some clarity, because even, the people who are involved, we need to make sure we totally understand. And know the players when they're appointed.
Yep.
So can I make a motion to approve Teresa Pammer?
Okay, and
I'll second that.
thank you. And is there a second?
Second,
Yes, Stu just did.
All right, all those in favor of having Teresa Pammer pick up one of the open spots on the planning commission, say aye.
All right.
Oh, wait, Pat, do you have
I just
another
want to,
question?
I voted. I had my
Vote.
hand up.
okay, I just wanted
Okay,
to,
all right.
I just wanted to clarify, so, just so for the record, she's going into Connie Peck's, the position vacated by Connie Peck, and that term will run through, 2023. Okay,
Okay,
And that's one of the 5 voting members.
correct,
And that will be in the minutes,
yes,
2023, okay.
yes.
okay, and then, Tamara, will you get back to Teresa with our great thanks? And okay. Brett, do you have any report on the activities of the planning commission or regional planning?
Well, planning hasn't met. I did want to just real quick to Dave, I wanted to throw out, at some point, you and I were looking at clarifying some ordinance around the signage in the borough. There was some discrepancy, and then I think things kind of went off the rails with other activities going on, so I
Off the rails is an understatement, I think. So
Just to-
yeah, we need to get back to looking at the sign ordinance, and Mayor and I had a brief discussion about how to move that forward. I think we're going to give the council recommendation on a few things that we think are most pressing, and then try to get those adopted as opposed to complete rewrite of the zoning ordinance, which is where we were about 5 years ago. And
Okay,
it got bogged down in committee. So I think a better approach may be, let's deal with those things that are most urgent that Tamara sees as zoning officer that she will like to have corrected. So we'll make those recommendations to you, and then you can discuss them.
Okay, thank you. Regarding regional, we did meet on the 18th. I'm going to paste a link into the chat window here. Give me one moment. Hopefully. Will it let me paste? Hold on.
I don't see it, Brett.
No, it was giving me some difficulty. All right, so
Here we are.
hopefully it's there now. So what that is the first presentation this past month was
Hey,
kind of
Brett,
a follow-up on the, yes.
you want to just take control of the screen and share the screen? All you need to do is go to the center of the bottom of the screen, click
Yep.
on the screen button, and I will make you presenter, and then it'll pop up on everybody's screen here.
All right, so
It's there on the little air balloon, right? Is the link.
Oh, now it did come up. Yep, it did come up.
See the air balloon?
Yeah,
Top
it's
right?
It is in the chat now. It
Are
didn't.
you-
It wasn't there initially. Either way
Okay.
you want to do it.
So anyway, from that, well, let me, because my other screen might be a little too big. We can try it. But anyway, so you have that link in the chat window.
Yep.
I don't know if this is too small for you guys. The this browser up here is where the link should take you. So this is an active developed site that they're working on at the county. Basically, you can just acknowledge that. You can, zoom in and out. And then as you get into different areas, they have points of interest you can click on. That'll give you bubbles about different things that are available along the trail. So you can navigate around. So they're really putting a lot of effort into making this interactive map. A lot of the points that are in there are data points that the county already had for other things, but they've invited municipalities to feel free to chime in with, if they think there's things that should be added or updated along the trail there. If you get down towards Trap, there are a few things that do come in from around our area, like they have some of the historical stuff's in here, like Dewey's Tavern and whatnot. So feel free to poke around in there. If you want anything relayed to So then we can do that through regional. So that was
So
there.
Brett,
Yes.
this is not, is this in any way for, is it under, secret cover, or is it
No,
able?
it hasn't been advertised yet.
But it's
So
something,
It's
It's
still
a-
in the development phase. It's regional planning, working with the county, because the county's using their fancy Esri software to develop this application.
but if somebody has this link, as the county makes updates, it will just update on the map.
Correct. Yeah,
And
it's a live thing.
Okay,
So
It's-
as they
it's
make
not
changes,
perfect, yeah. Okay, thank you.
so, and then like in this window, some of the things they're looking to do is have functionality eventually where you could, like if you're in a certain spot, you could say, show me things on the map that are near me. So like if you're on a cell phone, right? You would be able to, fairly quickly identify things that are close to you when you're on the trail. So they're really trying to build this up. So,
That's nice.
and then
Nice.
here's another one. They're creating the story map. I don't have the link. If you can, this is an image. I have to. I don't think I grabbed the URL. So if you can read what's in that panel there, I can always share that later. But this is kind of a separate thing that they're doing. So it's highlighting different parts of the trail and different things about it. From a an informational perspective. So that's kind of what's going on with that. There's this, then they had the survey link, which I can paste this in the chat window as well if anybody wants to participate in that. Let me see here. See if I can. All right, there's that link. Then when they went on, we had another presentation. They were talking about countywide saldo information, different things that they were getting for, submissions and proposals, and comparing, the different uses and where stuff was done. So here they had a number of submissions. Now the one that kind of caught somebody's attention in there, they were kind of curious about. If anybody wants me to stop on anything, feel free to just yell out. I'm just kind of scrolling through. When they got to proposed residential units, they had one that kind of popped out of particular interest, and that was our 96 here. They were asking about that. I believe that was the
Apartments.
our light industrial proposal. So, but anyway, some useful information, interesting to look at some of this data. Like I said, I can share these screenshots with anybody if you're interested. So they went through some of the Monco 2040 applications that have been approved and are moving forward. So like Collegeville did this boat ramp. Schwenksville did an application for some stuff with their trail and signage work and their park pavilion. Here's a little more detail on the Collegeville boat ramp. They're talking about this, some of that, I guess the access they're looking to improve here by the one waterway. There's the public pavilion for Schwenksville. The one thing that caught my attention though is North Providence mentioned that they managed to get 800 feet of sidewalk dealt with under one of these Monco 2040 grant programs. Now, I don't have a lot of detail about how they managed to work that in, but given the talk we've had about Main Street and whatnot, that kind of caught my attention. So, and they do plan on, because we missed so many months with other things going on, the next meeting is going to be virtual and it'll be later this month. So, any questions about any of that?
Where's the Collegeville boat ramp going to be at?
I'm not sure if they had
Is that
that.
near the hotel or what?
Well,
I thought that's where it is, but
yeah, it looks like it's where this yellow pin is. I don't know if you can see where my cursor is, kind of in this map towards the top there.
Yeah.
So
nope.
don't quote me on that. I'm guessing based on the image because they got into the detail. So that's all I have.
All right, thank you. That's great. Okay, Public Works and CTMA. And hey, Stu, why don't you tell us a little bit about regional and Middle Interceptor?
Okay, as far as interceptors go, they're about 23% of the interceptor. You know, if you look at their productivity, they should be at 47%, but they did have some issues out there. Really, originally, I think the interceptor was supposed to be done June of 2021. Now it looks like it's going to be at the end of 2021, which is the extension. With the storm, just so everybody knows, regional, the sewer plant basically shut down completely as far as no electric. So I think they're spending up to $50,000. They had to bring in generators on, basically semis and get them filled twice a day to keep the sewer plant running. So a lot of people lost electric, including them over there. Let's put it that way. As far as regional goes, a couple of things that I brought up at CTMA too is, and I think if we look at the minutes, I strongly disagreed with something. Of course, Cobra, the virus shut everything down, but guess what? Alan Myers, who did the project, got $100,000 that did get approved by the sewer authority against my will. I know John Haynes from Haynes Cable House. I know in talking to our state reps and state senators, none of these contractors got paid, but for some odd reason, they decided to give Myers $100,000 for their interruption of what's transpired. And why that's important is indirectly, all this added cost is going to cost all the ratepayers one way or another. The biggest cost that's costing us more than anything is what's put a stop to one section of the interceptor is they have an eagle's nest. And with the eagle's nest, basically what they had to do is stop from one portion to go to another portion. Because when the eagles are nesting, and they are nesting, I think near the Arcola Bridge, if you ever gone down there, basically, according to federal guidelines, you can't have any disruptions within a 650 feet area, or it might disrupt the birds. Now, Alan Myers is claiming, because they have to go back and take care of that section of the project, they basically are saying that this could cost additional $1.5 million. So that's 5% more on the project. Now, originally Myers was supposed to provide us some sort of documentation at this meeting that transpired today, but it did not come. But we're going to fight them tooth and nail, because I think they're basically abusing us or thinking we're going to say yes to nothing. So, that's the big thing, the eagle's nest, the extension of the project. And I think indirectly what's going to happen is I feel that it's going to end up, this additional expense is going to cause sewer rates to increase, because what happens, Kathy and I and Mallory do serve on CTMA, but a biggest portion of our budget is what you have to pay the regional sewer authority. So if Regional Sewer Authority does up their rates to CTMA, unfortunately, CTMA is going to have to pass all this information down. So that's about it with regional planning.
Okay,
Regional sewer, I'm sorry.
Yeah. Let's see, with regard to Public Works, and CTMA, our local, let's see, you've got the minutes and you've got the financials for both organizations. Public Works is reporting that almost all of the new meters have been installed. There was a particular well that has not been used for many, many moons. So they decided to actually shut it down, and by calling it an inactive well, that saves us a lot of money and time for Joe in terms of not having to report on it on a regular basis, because the reporting on any active well is horrendous. With regard to some other things, yeah, salt shed payments was a big issue, so we'll have to see what they want to do there. No news on the Trap Center perk contamination. We haven't seen that. There has been a request that could the Collegeville police either shut down, close off the Waterworks Park at sundown and on the weekends. And in the past, Collegeville police were not willing to do anything in the parks because they didn't feel they had jurisdiction. So we will likely have to do something with regard to a intermunicipal agreement. And hopefully that'll be all we need there. Okay. Are you guys, is council willing to investigate some kind of intermunicipal agreement with Collegeville so that we could have Collegeville police do some very basic closing off of the parking lot at Waterworks Park?
I have no problem. I just want to make sure we don't get paid. We have to pay for it.
Well, we'll have to pay something, but it'll go through Public Works, perhaps. I don't know. We'll have to see.
Well, particularly in light of the fact that that park is now owned both by Trap and Collegeville. Collegeville
Correct.
has an interest in its safety there as well, even though it's in Trap, but they own half of it. So
Yeah, they just basically said it was a big jurisdictional issue.
right,
And that's
Well,
why they wouldn't get involved earlier. So
right, we can enter an intermunicipal agreement that allows them into Trap to do whatever they're going to agree to do.
okay. So as long as council is okay with that, then I'm okay. Looking at talking to the Collegeville representatives at Public Works, and we can try to get that taken care of. Okay, any objections? I'm not hearing any, seeing any. We lost Pat somewhere, huh? Along the way. All right, very good. Yeah, that's basically it on that one. Next is information communications and technology, but I don't see Pat anymore, so I guess she called it quits. Traffic and safety, what else do we have? I think Scott, you pretty much covered that, right?
Yeah, we covered that. We're good.
Okay, old business. I'm sorry to get into this without Pat. Trap day. At this point, it's still on, but
I would move that we cancel it this year.
there's a second to that motion?
And again, the reason being that I just think with COVID, there's so many questions out there right now. I just don't see, as much as I hate this, I don't see any resolution between now and the end of the summer, probably. I mean, unless somebody disagrees. I mean, plus Phil was instrumental, well, and it's just as important. Phil was instrumental in planning that and really had assumed control of that. And unless someone is really willing and energized to step in and take that role, until we kind of fully regroup here, I don't know. And again, the timeline, the timeline's kind of compressed at this point.
So just if I can just add to, I had talked with Phil a few weeks back because I sent out information to to the vendors and the entertainment people, and what Phil and I had talked about is that we would make a decision one way or the other 100% by the July meeting, so that people had time, like the entertainment could either regroup or rebook, because we didn't want to sign contracts and be stuck paying deposits and those kinds of things. So I think at the very least, by next month, I think you have to make a decision. But my big concern, honestly, now is not just the timing and everything going on, but is with Phil not being here. So we need somebody's got to pick up that role. And I think maybe a suggestion would be to cancel this year and maybe try to create a trap day committee. And it doesn't have to be council people. It could be, volunteers from the public or something maybe for next year, so that you have the planning and stuff set up for it. I mean, it's just something to consider.
Right. Another thought that I had was, why don't we scale it way back in terms of the entertainment, and then we could get businesses either, a very small fee for a table rather than the larger fee, and still meet our budget. But you're right, there is a lot of manpower requirement there.
And I don't know, are they going to have to wipe down all the equipment? With the rides and the games, I don't even know that you're going to be able to have gatherings over 250 by that point.
Yeah.
Plus what the requirements will be for the vendors, for the rides and those kinds of things.
And everything else, that could be tough. All right, well, let's, do we want to go just flat out cancel now, or do we want to wait and see? You guys still don't have a second to your motion, Scott.
I'm somewhat, I hate to do it, but we got two issues. We've got whatever the COVID questions are, and then we've got someone's got to put some time in and sort of lead this a little bit. And it is going to be tough to recruit people into this environment as well, because I don't think businesses are overly confident about spending additional money and resources on marketing right now. I mean, that's just my opinion, but I'll certainly could open to having my mind changed.
I'll second Scott's.
That's motion.
Is that Mallory? I'm sorry.
That's Mallory.
Okay.
All right, so we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Okay, all those in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Wow, I wasn't expecting that. Okay, no trap day this year. So Tamara, I guess you need to go back to your, send out another letter.
That's fine. We haven't had anybody sign up as a vendor, and the entertainment people, a couple of them just said, let us know what you're doing, when you decide. And so I'll let them know, and then we'll put something out on the web. So,
Tamara, though, going to your point, when do you want to bring
Why?
Sorry, go ahead, Steve.
I think the letter should explain why
oh yeah,
to do it. And a lot of
Yeah.
it's safety and regulation, and there's no way we can make a commitment at this time.
right.
Yeah.
I do think, though, at some point we put a benchmark out there where we really start to put together a committee.
Yeah.
And so we're not wandering this late into the next year and not having replaced that issue. But we should be at full strength on committee or on borough council before we probably do that.
Right. Got it. Okay. And then any other old business? New business. I have one thing that I know Dave Perlin caught my ear on the street the other day. We are assuming that in the event of some kind of looting or violent outcry at our main business centers, which is in this case the Trap Center, that the state police would be available to help us out. And it's just worth maybe a conversation with them to confirm that even if things are going down in Upper Providence or in Saratoga or some of the other places nearby, that if there was a problem in Trap, they'd still find some resources to help us out. And it's just a matter of a conversation. Well, because I'm just saying, if there's things going on all over, are we going to be lowest priority because we're so small? And
No, I don't think so. I mean, the question
Okay.
is, they have a certain finite amount of resources. They're going to go
right,
first to where the big problem is, and secondary
Right.
problems are, I'm not saying that we wouldn't get attention, but I mean, I can't imagine that if there was no other problems in the world and we had a problem in Trap, my guess is they would be very responsive. The question is if the resources are stretched so thin that they just can't be everywhere all the time. I think, then we could run into a potential issue, but I'm not sure what the appropriate response would be to that.
yeah, I'm just, it's just a matter of it might be worth a conversation. Just to
With the state
confirm.
police?
Yeah, just to confirm that they're not going to let us, say, well, you guys are just too small. We can't accommodate you or whatever.
I believe.
Dave just went green. Maybe he'd like to speak to it.
Sure. One of the lessons learned is I work with the school district quite a few years now, and the school district was under an understanding that they would send their students from our school district to, let's say, Penn, to shelter in place in the event of any kind of emergency. And they were under that assumption for a number of years. And I had made a comment to Jim, who is Jim is the side to the associate to the superintendent, and Jim went and contacted the school district Penn and found out there was no such agreement. And thank God he went and investigated that. So that's the lessons learned. There was an assumption that if something would happen, he would have this in place, when in fact they did not have it in place. So this is really a friendly conversation with the state police at the barracks, just to make sure an understanding as to you would get some resources if Trap needed them. That's all.
Yeah. That's all. Yeah. I do what?
Yeah, Kathy, well, related to Dave and stuff like that, I mean, it doesn't hurt to talk, but I sort of know that, because you never should assume, Dave. I respect that. But I'm sure the state police would be there. But also, I thought this is one of the questions we asked many years ago, that if there's ever an issue that the state police can't be here, it's just like with our fire department. What we have to do is we have to cover other areas and stuff like that. Other municipalities would have to come in and cover a situation like that. Scott, do you remember a conversation like that once?
Yeah,
Not.
I mean, I do.
I know.
And I know some of the other communities like Collegeville, for example, I think, and there's all sorts of mutual aid agreements to go back and forth. I mean, I'm sure the state police would call upon them to do it, but there was some discussion even with Collegeville at some point. I mean, but again, it's worth probably a conversation again to see how that would work. I mean, Collegeville's task is first going to be I mean, state police, I think would be responsible, but a question of whether or not they had the resources or not, given other things that would potentially break out.
Okay,
Right.
just
Yeah.
wanted to raise
This
it.
is this is for us, for TRAP, a planning exercise, just to have understandings, that's all, and reconfirm those understandings.
Yep.
And not scramble at the last minute.
Got it. Thank you, Dave.
Welcome.
All right, is there any other new business? All right, hearing none, caller one, whoever you are. I don't know who caller 01 is. Okay. So hearing no further new business, we are going to request everyone that's not part of council should leave because we are going into executive session. So, who do we need in that executive session? Should we?
I think you would keep Paul and Dave for at least the first part, I think.
Paul and Dave Honorado. Can Dave Davis stay?
Technically, he should not.
Okay. Good night, everyone.
Not technically a member of council yet.
Tamara, I'll be with you tomorrow about the notarization and the.
Yeah, I'll be in. I'm gonna try to run out to Phil's viewing at some point. I probably won't stay for the mass because I know that they're gonna have a ton of people. But definitely all afternoon I'd be free. And maybe some in the morning if that works best. Just shoot me an email or give me a call.
Fine. Yeah, I'll touch base.